Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
And we're bringing you a packed show tonight with a Canadian flavour. We're focusing very heavily on the return of the Canadian Premier League. We'll have a little bit of MLS chat at the end of this episode as well. But I want to kick things off with Zach looking at the big announcement. If you listen to our extra podcast, if you're a subscriber, you'll have heard a little bit about this already, but we're going to delve into the Island Games. Not the Island Games that has existed since 1985, but the new Island Games that the CPL are putting out in PEI. They get underway on Thursday. We're recording this on Friday night, and as of right now, there is no schedule. We just know the opening match is a repeat of Cavalry against Forge, the championship game. The schedule we're expecting to come out on Monday, where we'll know a little bit more about it. But we're going to bring you a lot of chat about it in this show. We're going to delve into it in part 1. Then we're going to have some audio focusing on Pacific FC and FC Edmonton. Then in the next show, we'll hopefully cover some of the other teams as well. But let's just kick things off, Zach, by asking how excited you are to see the CPL finally back for Season 2. It wasn't cancelled.
I'm glad they're going to be having a season. I'm kind of glad they're doing it in this kind of format where it's all kind of in one exciting tournament. The tournament feels more meaningful than, for example, MLS is back or whatever. I did enjoy your question. You asked Clanachan that question, right, on the call about the name?
Yeah, he had no idea.
Yeah. He was like, it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be an issue.
You can see him writing down,
yeah,
there's already an Island Games, ?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not the most original name, but I can roll with it. I think it's got some good meaning to it and should be fun.
I like it, genuinely. It's like I think it is a good name and it's perfect from it, and yeah.
But I'm really excited. The Canadian Premier League, it's the second season, and I guess one of my hopes for this, Michael, and one of the things I don't want to be, have my hopes too high, but is that there'll be a similar effect to what we had last year, where we came into it not knowing exactly what to expect, especially in terms of the quality. And it was like, I think for the most part, for most people, it was maybe not like shocking, but maybe not crazy surprising, but it was like, I think people were at least encouraged by the quality of the play for the first year league. And I guess going into this, I kind of have that kind of hope. Like I'll be a little bit surprised at the quality because unlike, when the Bundesliga returned or some of the other leagues around the world, or even MLS is back, I don't think the run-up time for the teams and the players and training and stuff has been quite the same. So that's a little bit concerning, but I hope we're all pleasantly surprised by both the quality of the game and the production and even the availability. Like there's it's sounding like it's going to be on more places than just One Soccer for hopefully more of the Canadian masses to engage with. But I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be. We'll come to that part very, very soon. Let's look at the format of it. So basically, this is the CPL season. This tournament, that's it. And you said it feels a bit more special than MLS is back, and it does because it's the whole season. If MLS is back had been the entire season and that was going to be it, that would have been tremendous. And I think it would have just put so much more on it. Teams would have taken it maybe, I was going to say more seriously. I think teams did take it seriously, but it's just a one-off tournament. There's going to be more stuff after it, which looks like it's going to get announced next week as well, and we'll touch a little bit about that in part 5. But this is the season. There's going to be some Canadian Championship possibly stuff. We'll look at that in this part as well. But it's starting off, all 8 teams, they're going to PEI, and as long as there's not a Dallas or Nashville situation, all 8 teams should finish round 1 in PEI, and it's a round robin. Everyone's going to play each other once, and then the top 4 teams advance to the next stage of the tournament. Now, I like that. I think it's a level playing field. It's better than just having 2 teams advancing, because it means you can get off to a slow start and you're still in it. It also means it doesn't matter if you finish first. You get nothing really for finishing first. And we're going to hear some of the coaches' thoughts about that later on in the show. But basically, you just have to finish in the top 4. And if you can keep your squad fresh for the next part, I think the team that does that and the team that manages the players' mental health best in this bubble environment is going to be the team that is the strongest in the group of 4 round robin that comes up.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The way that these coaches go about man management is going to be significant. In the same way we've seen in other leagues returning and stuff, like how you work your squad. And I mean, a part of that's going to be the 5 substitutions, right? That is here for this, is here for another year in most places, and I think was likely to be around for a while. Or I hope it's going to be around for a while. Actually, I think it's changing things quite a bit in a positive way. But yeah, I think the coaches are going to have to manage the players well, but they're also going to have to manage these games well. You're right, because you don't want to go and have like 7 games and kind of use up all your all your kind of starting 11s. You don't want them the tank to run dry after 7 games, right? So yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how they do that, because we talked about it last year, but I think the sense I have is even more so this year. These squads are going to be, some of them are smaller, and they're going to be stretched, quite a bit by this.
It's a great opportunity for the young guys in squads, because I think the teams that are going to do well in this tournament are the teams that fully utilise their squad. A lot of it could go down as well to the schedule. So we don't know who's going to be strong. We can probably guess. So if you look at, say, Forge, expect them to be strong again. So if you play, say, Forge in your 4th or 5th game, and you've got a couple of wins under your belt already, it's like, well, we're not expected to win this. We'll maybe rest some guys for this one and then focus on the games that we think we are going to win. So, I mean, that's one option. You might play Forge and Cavalry, say, in your last 2 games. And it's like, well, crap, we need to get all our things done early, but then are you burning the players out because you're not resting them? So this is really going to test some of these coaches and how they do it. And that, to me, is an interesting aspect of this that I think is maybe overlooked right now. We're going to hear from Jeff Paulus and Pa Modou Kah chatting about that as well. But then you've got a guy like Tommy Wheeldon at Cavalry. He's got that winner's mentality. He wants to win every game. But this first stage of this, it's not about winning every game. It's about just getting your team through in the best shape and avoiding injuries. There's not been tons of injuries at MLS's back. I was worried there might be. But these players, it might be even tougher, because they've had no pre-season. Some of these guys, we're going to hear from Keven Aleman later in the show, he only joined his teammates in the middle of July, and then he had to quarantine for a bit as well. So there's the chemistry and getting all that kind of stuff done. Lots of interesting storylines in this.
You cannot just like ride 11 players or 12 or 13 players in this. You're going to need to use probably like 18 players, or, at the very minimum, 16 players are going to need to play like significant roles for you. And yeah, at least 16, probably even more than that. But it's exciting. I'm just excited to see how they approach it, because each game is going to be so incredibly meaningful, right? Like when you come to a league and last year, I think they had 28 games or whatever, every game's worth 3 points. Don't get me wrong, but when, everyone's playing 7 games and you got to finish in the top half, like, I wonder how many games are actually going to be meaningless in this, maybe 2 or 3 in the end, but like it's going to be, I think it's going to be quite exciting.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't feel that there's going to be that many meaningless games. And I think that's important because we talked about it a lot last year. From August onwards, a lot of the CPL, it kind of felt it was a bit of a lame duck because it was pretty obvious what was going to be happening in the championship game. Now, though, you've got this... You could be in it right to the end. And even in the next stage of it, because the top 4 teams are going to advance... Then it's a round robin for the top 2 then to play in the championship game. So even with that, every game's going to have some meaning, you feel, in the next round. And then the championship game's just a one-off. I think it's a great format. I think they've done very well putting this together. And I think the excitement levels are there. My big concern is how many people will actually get to watch it. And you touched on it there a few minutes ago. As of right now, all the games are going to be shown on One Soccer. And when I last checked One Soccer, they'd taken away the monthly option to subscribe, so you can only do the yearly option, which I think is $79.99 now. So that's not ideal. But David Clanachan, we're going to hear from him in the next part, talked about wanting to make sure that there was some linear broadcasters. So your traditional broadcasters... You have to think CBC will be in the mix again because CBC Gem showed the games last year. Obviously, One Soccer are spending a lot of money on producing this. But these games have to be on, not even CBC Gem, it has to be on actual TV for people to watch it. Or you're going to have the vast majority of people in Canada having no idea that this tournament is even on.
Yeah. So it's great for those who have One Soccer or who want to get One Soccer already. It would be great. Like many of these other leagues where you can watch everything that's happening. That's great. I agree with you. There needs to be these linear, traditional TV channels that are showing it as well. There was a tweet. I forget who tweeted this, but my understanding is that CBC has already put some stuff out, or not put some, maybe stuff has leaked out from CBC. But there's going to be on Saturday, so Saturday, August 15th. I assume these times are Eastern, at 1300, so 1 o'clock. There's going to be one game, and then it's a double header at 1500, so 3 o'clock Eastern. Oh yeah, it says Eastern. There'll be a second game. Now it doesn't have the teams for that, but I'm pretty sure we know one of them's Edmonton.
Yes, as we'll hear very soon.
So CBC sounds like they're going to be one of those partners. It will be interesting to see if TSN also gets on board, because I mean, there's a whole bunch of things all happening. There's a whole bunch of moving parts, right, that are all happening in the sports world right now. So when you're TSN, one of those significant moving parts for them has always been the Canadian Football League, the pigskin league that they play a significant role for in terms of broadcast and other ways. And my understanding is that's not going to be back even in time for its traditional Labor Day Classic kind of games. And so you got to think that maybe TSN maybe even might want to get in on this a little bit to have some live sports to show in addition to whatever else is they're showing right now. You assume they're going to have some MLS and other stuff, but
I mean,
So yeah,
what they did with the MLS's back tournament was fantastic. It's shown every single game. I appreciated that. I mean, I've criticised them before for having rights to games and not showing them, so I've got to give them plaudits. They showed every single game. That was great. If they can get into this as well, that would be also good. But then you have to think as well, how much do One Soccer want to give up? Because they've spent a lot of money and given a lot of money to the league, so they need the subscriptions. I just don't see people paying subscriptions for a tournament. Another way you can get your subscription, though, Zach, is I believe Curva Collective have expanded to be nationwide. Is that correct?
Oh man! Before we go into this, it was Martin Bailey who tweeted about that, and apparently he sought out permission from the CBC to tweet that. So, in terms of the CBC being involved, yeah, this whole thing with the collective, there's some things about it that are understandable and I guess in one sense necessary, but there are some things here that they're really off the mark, right? Like, you know, to me, language is important. It's like semantics are important. Like we, you know, sometimes we can be flippant or whatever, but like words matter in my opinion. And to call this thing a supporter group is just like kind of, at least at the very minimum, it's tone deaf from the league office. I mean, supporters groups are created and birthed by supporters. They're not made by organizations and companies and sponsors and whatever. And you see when things like that happen, you know, I mean, think about, I know this wasn't a supporter group, but think about what happened, you know, in Middle Cascadia when their football club tried to have one of their sponsors organize a TIFO, right?
Yeah.
That did not go down well. And to their front office's credit, they canceled it after they realized the error they had made and admitted to it, which was, you know, big of them in the end, in one sense. But so this is not a supporters group. To me, this is the league trying to say, how can we make money in a year where the ways we're going to make money are limited and are not the same as they were in the past. So in that respect, I don't begrudge them at all. They really should have used different language, and they should have known better. And they have people who are there who I think do know better and either weren't involved or didn't consult them or whatever. Because in one sense, they're trading on the good name of supporter and supporter culture, which I understand why they want to do that. But there are ways to do that without doing it the way they did. On top of that, yeah, I mean, you talk about Curva Collective. You know, I mean, the name Collective for Curva Collective, I think was fitting because it was about, you know, this group of people coming together to do something together. So I'm not super offended. Like, I think I like the word collective. I think it's good.
Yeah.
And so I'm personally not offended by that. However, more in a CanPL context, there is a group called Saga City Collective in Mississauga that has played a significant role in trying to bring the Canadian Premier League to Mississauga, like very, very significant. A gentleman named Rob Didda, and he has a bunch of people who've worked really, really hard doing the traditional things, but going above and beyond, especially engaging the politicians in their community, and making it possible for they've made a way. They made a path for CanPL to go to Mississauga, and like, so I think it's like I understand why they would be offended or you know, not excited about this, and I know they're not. You know, talking to Rob, you know, he, you know, just in how they communicate with people, they always communicate with people in terms with that language, saying, you know, welcome to the collective, or it's a part of like how they greet people and how they interact with people and stuff, and it's a deeply meaningful word for them. So, which I can understand, and which I also feel really bad for them in this situation, because it shows that the league doesn't know or doesn't understand or is not taking into account people who are already highly invested in their community and highly invested in making the league successful and making local clubs successful, including making them as much money as possible. And so, you know, I think even if they'd called this thing like a league-wide fan club, which is not language I identify with, but it would be more on point with what it is. You know what I mean? And I think you would have seen. I know people in these groups from across the country, in virtually all of the groups. I know people, and they would have been happy to support that. They would have been happy to say, "Yeah, this is a good thing." But many of them are frustrated by it. Many of them are, because this also the league went to them about the concept, about the idea, but
I was going to ask if there had been any consultation or if there was a massive surprise to them.
No, the league has done communication well on something, so they totally talked to them about stuff, but there was a number of details that were not part of those discussions. So when it got actually officially rolled out, they were surprised about a few of the elements, including I don't think the name was ever something that they heard about either. They're also a little bit concerned, I think, rightly so, in terms of like, is this really going to be a 1-year thing, or is this going to be a thing that kind of continues in the future in different ways? Because also for supporters groups, having been involved, as deeply as one can in one sense, like you want to support your club and you want to do it independently and you want to do it on your own, and so you want to have ways to make money to support in the ways that you want to support. And if you have a league thing that's kind of taken away from that, or potentially taking away from that, or causing confusion around who you are and what this league thing is, it's not necessarily going to be super helpful, especially if it lasts longer than the year. So, like, yeah, in one sense, I understand their desire in this. I don't think their execution was done really well. Now most of the supporters I've talked to have essentially said, as opposed to being like, let's boycott this or let's cause a big stink about it or like whatever. Some of them have tweeted about it and expressed concerns, and they've talked to their people and whatever. But most of them are trying to look on the bright side of things and just say, okay, the deal that they're offering is in most regards a good deal. And so most of them, I think, are taking the deal and saying, okay, we'll move forward with this, but we are also going to try and keep the league in check in terms of, how this goes forward. Because one of the things that is that this whole deal with the collective is, right, you can join the collective. It's a $10 or $20 cheaper if you're already an existing season ticket holder.
I think it's $20 cheaper.
Yeah, closer to 30. And so you can roll. You have the options. Well, each club is a little bit different, but basically you can say, just take my money for put it towards next year and stuff. Some clubs have actually said to their supporters, would you be willing to let us either keep your money for the season and would you I think some clubs have said, will you basically donate your money because we're going to take a bath this year, or will you give us the money, the difference between your season ticket and collective membership thing? Will you give us the difference? And so I think there's some clubs who are just being upfront and honest with their people and are probably going to help them a little bit. Maybe not, might not make a killing, but might help them. But you can do all these kinds of things. Now, the one thing that only in the future will we know how this truly plays out. But one of the things that was included, as my understanding, for all clubs in the league this year was your season ticket included a subscription to One Soccer.
Yes.
Now, my understanding is that is no longer the case, even if you put yours to next year. Now, presumably next year, your season ticket package will include it, but maybe not. So that's where most people are saying, hey, I'm going to get the One Soccer subscription, which I was going to get supposed to have or whatever. And I'm getting a kit, a jersey, and the difference is I'm saving whatever it is, $50 or $70 or $80 or $90, but whatever it is, I'm saving money. So a lot of the people I've talked to are choosing to view it as these are unique times, and hopefully I'll get a free subscription with my season ticket next year. And they're kind of acting in good faith and saying, okay, in one sense, I'm getting a deal, so I'm going to take it and try and be supportive. Because most of the people I know, they want to support the league. Like they don't want it to fail. They don't want it to have a bad year. They don't want a bad year to slow the progression in terms of other groups coming in, other teams coming into the league. And so they want to do all that they can, right? So it will be interesting to see like how that plays out, how many people, take up this offer, how many people just get a subscription to One Soccer on its own. Again, I'm in that boat of I want this thing to do well, in part selfishly because I want a club in closer proximity than West Hills is, and so yeah, I'm hoping it'll do well.
I've looked at it, and it's not a bad deal because you get One Soccer and you get the jersey. But we'll talk a little bit about the jerseys in a sec. I think what we'll do, we'll take a little break just now, and then we'll come back with Zach and we'll talk some more CPL, and then we'll hear a little bit from the Commissioner David Clanachan. And we'll be back with that in the next part. And we're going to be kicking off part 2 with the first song from August's Artist of the Month here at AFTN. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of warning, especially for those of you listening to the show in headphones, or those of you that's maybe driving around and kind of listening to it in your cars. The song that we're going to kick off part 2 with is by a band that is very well known for having quiet sections of their songs that then just explode into a cacophony of noise. So just to give you the heads up, things are going to start nice and mellow before just exploding, so don't have the volume turned up too high. Are you curious to hear who it is? Well, find out after this.
How's it going, guys? I'm Ben Fisk. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the wonderful Mogwai, one of my all-time favourite bands, hailing out of Glasgow, Scotland. And that was a snippet from their epic song, Like Herod, from their debut studio album, Mogwai Young Team, released in 1997. And that's a song that they often use as one of their show closers nowadays. The song lasts for just approaching 12 minutes on the album, can go a lot longer live, and it's also not the longest track on that album. Like I said before the break, they're a band that in their early days in particular were known to have the formula of like quiet, melodic sound that then explodes into a cacophony of noise, as you heard there. As I mentioned, they are one of my all-time favourite bands. I haven't featured them too much on the show before because the bulk of their stuff, I'd probably say 97-98% of it, it's all instrumental. They're an instrumental band, and sometimes that doesn't always translate well to just have little snippets on the radio for a minute or so. But I thought it's about time we featured them as Artists of the Month, and you're going to get 4 songs from them in August here on the AFTN Soccer Show. So check them out. They've got some great stuff out there, a lot of studio albums. They've got some football connections as well. They did soundtrack the film Zidane, a portrait of a 20th century legend. They're also big Celtic fans, and they have a song that I will feature on Wavelength at some point, maybe this month, named after the Scottish referee Hugh Dallas. So let's get back to some chat about the Canadian Premier League and the Island Games with Zach. And before the break there, we were chatting about the collective and everything that comes with that. And with the collective membership, you get your subscription to One Soccer, and you get the choice of a home and away jersey, home or away jersey, not both. That would be a great deal if they did that. But a home or away jersey of the club of your choice. Now, the jerseys were released, the away jerseys, and I haven't had a chance to speak to you about that, Zach. I love the Pacific FC jersey. I would almost be tempted to get the collective thing for the One Soccer subscription and for getting a Pacific FC away jersey. What did you make of the jerseys? They're all black, so we're going down the Kiwi route. But I thought on the whole they were pretty well. I like a black kit, so I quite liked them.
Well, we've known for like a long time that they were all going to be black. Like that's been kind of in the ether or whatever for quite a while. So I knew that. I didn't know about the similarity for the most part in terms of the approach, which is kind of both nice but again maybe too uniform. I don't know, especially considering they're all the same color
and some of the same sponsor.
Yes, yeah, that's okay for now. Yeah, I know. In general, I like them. I have not seen. Have you seen? I have not actually. I have not looked. Have you seen what the socks and shorts are supposed to be with these kits? Or is it like literally going to be all black? That's the one thing I haven't looked into further, so I'm not sure. I
assumed, and you know what that does to people, but I assumed they would be black as well. But I hope they're black, because otherwise I think it will not look great. Unless if you had Pacific black with maybe their kind of teal colour, Cavalry black with red, York black with green, that might work because you've got the splashes of that in the jerseys. What did you think of York's jersey? Because to me that was the most hideous one.
So yeah, I pulled them up here now so I can look at them on my phone while we're talking. So I mean, here's the thing about jerseys in general, right? Like it's so subjective, right? Everything is so subjective. So I just grabbed Kirk when I saw them, when I first got a message with them. I said, "Hey, buddy, let's look at these together. Tell me which ones you like, which ones you don't like." And so he's 11 going on 12, right? But I think York was his favorite. Like he just really liked that there was a map on there. Again, he's 11, so maybe that's how to do it. And again, I don't hate. I know it's gotten a lot of negative reviews in terms of like people looking at it being like, well, one of these is not like the other and is really terrible. But again, I spent a significant part of my life living and growing up in the York region, my formative middle school and high school years. So I don't hate it, but I can understand why people would hate it. And I like that. I like they have Macaron as the shirt sponsor as well as the shirt maker. I kind of like that. I like when Bolton back in the day used to have Reebok. Was their shirt?
Yes.
Their shirt made their shirt. The stadium was the Reebok. I kind of like that, but
I mean, it's true what you're saying about subjective, because like one of the reasons I like Pacific's best is I have a thing about lighthouses. I love lighthouses, and I also love Pacific's colour scheme. So for me, anything in that blue, and if you add black to it, I mean, I'm just looking at it again just now. That just for me it pops, and I like how it has Van Isle on the back. So I like that. I like the Cavalry one because the mountains and the kind of nod to that, and the red and black, I think it goes good as well. And I really liked Halifax's one. I like bridges. So I mean, things with structures. I'm not a big fan of, and obviously it depends on what you've got in your city. But hey, here's like City Hall, or here's a municipal building we're putting on a strip. That isn't great.
But it kind of works for Ottawa because it's the Parliament, right? Like it's the most one of the most iconic buildings in the whole country. So it is, to me, you have kind of four of them are in one category. You have Valor, Ottawa, Pacific, and Halifax. They all are similar styled, right? They all have these like monuments on kind of one side or most of the kit. It's really, it is not weird, but the Halifax and Pacific, again, in part because they're both sponsored by Volkswagen, their kits look so similar, right? They just put the lighthouse on, they put the thing on, the emphasis is on the opposite side. But, But
I tweeted out that they were my two favourites. Someone replied saying, is that because they're both identical?
Yeah, totally. So, I appreciate Pacifics. I don't hate, like I said, I don't hate Yorks.
I'm just looking at Edmonton's again,
I like Edmonton's.
I didn't at first. I like it when you zoom into it. From a distance, it looks to me it's more like the galaxy. It's like you're focusing on the sky and the cluster as opposed to whatever weird L-shaped building is in the bottom of the kit.
I like Edmonton's. I mean, it's too bad their club badge is so terrible. But like I like that kit. I agree with you on Cavalry. They once again have a really, really quality kit, and I actually like Forges. I don't know what that is supposed to be exactly, but I like it.
Yeah.
What is that supposed to be? Is that the end of a hammer? Like
I don't know. They're like hammering the whole hammer thing into the ground. I think York 9 should have had Yorkie back on it, but like bringing back from the death.
They just killed, like, get a memorial shirt, a black memorial shirt for York. But no, I like them, and I think they should help them move kits. I think these will sell.
I definitely think so. I've just got it up. Forge. It's Hamilton's Gore Park Fountain.
On an angle, like on a.
I guess it says it's a well-known hub for the city's vibrant arts scene.
Well, that doesn't help me like it more, but I still think it looks nice.
Yeah, it to me it looks more like it's some kind of flame, like an Olympic flame kind of thing.
Yeah. But so then, again, so can we take a moment and rank them?
Okay.
So you got York as last, and you have, is it Pacific first?
I've got Pacific first, and then I probably actually have Cavalry's as second.
Yeah.
And then I've got Halifax third.
Okay.
Valor's has actually grown on me, and I possibly would even put Valor's above Halifax's now. And then York's my least favourite, and then my second least favourite is Forge. Oh no, I've missed Atletico Ottawa. How could I forget about Ottawa? Yeah, I'd have Ottawa, Forge, York as my bottom three.
Okay, so for me, it's a toss-up. I think the Alberta ones are the two nicest, to be honest. So I'm going to go with Cavalry. Cavalry overall, I think, is better. Then I'll say Edmonton number 2. I might have said the opposite with my son. Then I think I'm going to go with if you hadn't told me it was a fountain, I probably for sure would have went with Forge. Well, let's go Forge. And then I'll put Pacific fourth just because I like the club. And then I'm going to put York next because it's different compared to the others, and I don't hate it, even though I understand why it's hated. And then after that, I'm going to go Ottawa, Halifax, and Valor's the basement dwellers for me.
The thing...
We'll get lots of comments about how wrong we are, but...
Yeah, please actually let us know what you think of the kit. So we've got some folks' feedback on Twitter. We'd love to hear a lot more. The thing that I like about Edmonton's kit, that it's growing on me now the more that I'm staring at it as we're talking, I like the Swoop sponsor, just because I like their logo. And then because it's kind of like space and sky and the planes in the sky, that kind of actually works a bit for me now. And now the more that I'm looking at Cavalry's, I'm thinking those mountains look kind of shitty.
Yeah, I think those can go opposite. I think the mountains are nice. Here's the thing though, it'll be interesting to see them in person, right? Because kits look one way in a release and whatever, but you got to see them and feel them and all that kind of stuff. I think we talked about before, right? It's kind of awkward if you're an FC Edmonton supporter. It's kind of awkward that your team's new sponsor is the budget airline of your main rivals. Their airline is the big one, and yours is I'm not a big fan, or wasn't a big fan of what's his name, Jay Ball in Edmonton. But I think if Jay Ball was there, I don't think he would have let that happen.
Hopefully they can get some more sponsors so everyone's got a unique sponsor at some point.
Maybe, 2 more, baby.
Yeah, bring in, I don't know, Santander for Atletico Ottawa or something, the Spanish bank. But I mean, the good kits. I like the box that they come in as well. I've only seen the Edmonton one, but it looks quite a fancy little box. I'm going to get the Pacific one. I probably won't get the collective thing. I'll probably do my Scottish thing and wait to the end of the season when the kits are half price and then pick up one of the Pacific ones then. But talking of the collective, to me, it's a bit like a union. A collective, a union, which is a little bit surprising then that the Canadian Players Union still has not been recognised by the CPL. We'll delve into that in a sec. I want to bring you some audio now from the conference call that David Clanachan, the Commissioner of the League, had with some selected media just to announce the tournament starting. So anyone that's an extra subscriber got the full audio for this, so check that out. If you haven't heard it, I'm just going to bring you a couple of bits just about the tournament, the union and the broadcasting deal. Let's hear from David Clanachan.
We are the League!
My question is concerning, I heard you say in the announcement today, this is our season. Soccer Canada announced a month and a half ago that there would be a Canadian championship. Does this mean that CPL teams will not be participating in a potential Canadian championship this year? What can you tell us about that? And have you considered maybe making the winner of this tournament become, say, the fourth team that could participate in a potential Canadian championship?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jeremy. No, actually, we're talking about our regular season. So if there is a Canadian championship this year, and I hope, like every other Canadian that there is, all of our teams will participate in that. There's no doubt. But I don't, it's not my purvey to say how that's going to happen and when it's going to happen. And that's why I didn't mention it. But thanks for clarifying that or allowing me to clarify it.
David, does the league have any plans to recognize the PFA Can, the Players Union, before this season takes place?
No, I think at this point, Joshua, we've had obviously communication with the proposed PFA Can. We've been dealing directly with the players on this because of this season. We're in a very different time with COVID-19. I mean, the whole world's been turned upside down. So we've been dealing directly with the players. Our players have been absolutely unanimous in their support for this. And at the end of the day, they want to play soccer. That's the bottom line. And so we're where we need to be. We've been very transparent with everything that's gone on. We've gone to them at the appropriate time, in each and every situation. And yeah, and they've been great about it. And I will say this: our players who, when you look at our league, the average age is just about 23 and a half to 24 years of age. They have been nothing but true professionals. I've been, not only myself, but the entire league an ownership group has been extremely impressed with the way they have conducted themselves and with the quality input that they've given as we put this together. These are not things you can do in the public eye, obviously, but these are things that have to happen in order to make these things go forward. So these types of events go forward. So we're very pleased with where we are at this point in time.
All these games are going to be on One Soccer. Are they going to be shown anywhere else? Last year we saw them on CBC, some of them. Are they going to be anywhere else?
Yes, thanks for asking that. We are actually talking to two of the linear broadcasters in Canada right now. I don't want to spoil it or put any undue pressure on them, but we've got great interest to show quite a number of the games on linear broadcast TV. So that'll be exciting. That's an announcement for another day. So stay tuned. But yes, that's part of the plan.
Okay, thank you. And then just a follow-up. So when will the schedule be released, and how many games per day are we thinking?
So the schedule will be released in the next 5 days. As I said, there's going to be a lot of information coming at you literally almost on a daily basis as we move forward. So that schedule will come out, and the number of games per day are going to vary, But again, some days might see some double headers. Others may see single games, but it's going to be spaced out over those the stages that we've set up. Either the first stage round robin, which happens is 28 games, then the second stage group stage, and then obviously the final.
Just wanted to ask about the name of the tournament. There is already a long-established Island Games tournament. Do you foresee any issues around that?
I think it's we're using the name Island Games because of paying respect for Prince Edward Island. So I don't think it's something that's a problem for us.
So David Clanachan there talking about a few things to do with the Island Games and just the league in general. So the union, Zach, has still not been recognised. He kind of basically said, no, we're not going to recognise it by this tournament. It doesn't sound like he still feels that they need to, and they negotiated directly with the players. I spoke about this in the extra podcast, but just to get your quick thoughts on it, the longer this drags on, it's going to be worse for the league because the union's going to take it to the courts, and you can't see them not winning the right to be recognised.
Yeah, I think the league is just going to try and ride out for 2020, maybe into early 2021, ride out the whole, hey, we can't deal with this right now because of the whole pandemic and all the things going on. I find it hard to believe that by whatever 2021 is going to look for them, they won't have recognized this, because you're right. I don't think the players will stand for that. They're also battling a bit of a perception problem, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we've talked about it before. When you talk about Clanachan, he's known, one of the biggest things he's known for is working for Tim Hortons. And one of the things he's known for in working at Tim Hortons is not allowing their workers to have a union, even though they desired one, is my understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But so when you have that kind of dynamic going on, it does not look good, right? So whether or not someone wants something or they've liked it in the past or wanted for their business set up in the past or not, I think Clanachan and the league is going to have to come to a place where they say, yeah, we need to do this. This needs to happen. Because, when you talk to people in the league, they'll tell you, yeah, it needs to happen, but kind of in the right timing and stuff. And when you listen to Marcel, you've, interviewed him before and shared his thoughts before, they're not looking for crazy money. Most of these players are not here to make money. They're here to be a professional and to develop and to hopefully go on to bigger money if they can in bigger leagues around the world in the long term.
Well, we're going to hear from Keven Aleman later in the show, and he actually talks about he's taken a big pay cut to come to the CPL, and he's done that because he wants to be in Canada and he wants to be in the Canadian national team mix again.
Right. So, yeah, I really hope I guess my hope is that this doesn't get ugly and become something that takes away from the positives that we've seen for this league in the last, whatever it is, 2 years or 2+ years since things kind of got going.
Well, yeah, the perception is good, as is the goodwill. You need to have it high. Going into year 2, it was still high. I think it is still high. This tournament is going to... I can't see it not being a success. That's the thing. I had doubts about MLS is back. I've loved it. It's been a big success. I think the league deserves plaudits for that. I still don't think it was a great thing to have it in Florida with everything that was going into build-up of it, but I'll eat my words. They pulled it off, and it's been a very enjoyable tournament. I think this will be a very enjoyable tournament. Going into year 3, though, you start to lose the goodwill that you get in the first 2 years of a league. The fans are going to start to demand more. There's already been some disgruntlement around the collective thing, as we've talked about, and then the union thing. And if you've got the fans not fully buying into this league, it's hard to see it working, because right now it's the hardcore that's keeping this afloat. because they're not getting out with their broadcasting to the masses. So I hope things don't start to go tits up for the league in that regard, perception-wise. I think everyone wanted the CPL to be very different from MLS, but I think football leagues around the world, they're all governed by the same thing, and it's about making money and being sustainable, and there's not a lot of differences between the CPL and MLS, I think.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the collective thing, like, again, a number of people, and at least a couple of places around the league, people from their clubs have gone to their supporters and say, yeah, look, we know was not exactly how it should have been. And kind of, that's very different than MLS. And MLS for knows and MLS.
Oh,
HQ,
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You know, it takes you taking legal action for, Don Garber to say, oh yeah, we're sorry, we did that wrong. Thinking about the Cascadia Cup, trademarking as an example. I too hope this goes well. One of the things I'm excited about it is the second group stage, just because I think, one, it's different. Two, it reminds me of when I was getting into football, in the 90s especially in the 90s. I remember studying the old World Cups and being like, what the heck? There was more than one group stage at a World Cup?
Yeah. The 82 one, I remember, yeah.
So it reminds me of that a little bit, even though I didn't experience those tournaments, but it reminds me of how football maybe used to be in some sense. And so I think it could be interesting. Again, I'm not sure how they're going to structure those games, like if they're going to be set up or they're going to wait and see who's in it and then set them up, based on who so they can keep the games as meaningful as possible in that group stage. But just a different format, I think, should make things more interesting as opposed to had they gone to, two semifinals and right into a final. So
yeah, I like that. I think that would have been a bad way of doing it because this is the whole season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you think it's a level playing field just now? Or do you think teams like Forge, Cavalry, I know Cavalry's lost some players, but they've made some additions. They've added Marcus Haber, for example. They've brought a lot of young guys up from Calgary Foothills that they're going to take to the tournament. Forge lost Borges, but they're strong. York Nines made some strong additions as well. I feel they could really be in the mix. FC Edmonton, as we're going to hear, they fancy their chances. Pacific FC's made some interesting additions as well. You've got Pa Modou Kah there, who's really his first taste of being an actual manager, and we don't really know what he's going to bring to the team. But when we chat with him later in the show, he talks about the kind of football that he wants to play. And it's you'd think build on defence first, but he knows it's about scoring goals and he wants to play attacking football. So I think this is a wide open tournament and it's up for grabs.
Yeah. I mean, part of it comes with the fact that there's only 8 teams, right? Which I'm thankful there's not 7. I'm thankful they're progressing in that way. But honestly, when I think about each of these teams, there's something I'm really excited about or something I'm really excited to see. I mean, let's go East Coast to West Coast. Halifax, I'm excited to see how Stephen Hart does in his second year.
Yeah, it's been a complete rebuild there.
Exactly. And so I'm excited to see what he does. My focus, I think, is a little bit on Stephen Hart there. Next, I guess we go to Ottawa. I mean, just excited to see how a new organization is going to be run there. And obviously, you and I and many others here are excited to see what this will mean for Ben Fisk and how what role he's going to play in that squad. And hopefully he'll be, because last year he wasn't always fully physically fit. Hopefully he's physically fit and he can dominate games or, make his mark in games and lead their team. York, obviously everyone's excited to see what's going to happen with the new mascot. And so we'll see how things go there.
Does he have to go into quarantine? Will he be allowed? It's all these questions.
Yeah. It's quarantine in the Maritimes, right? For just will they be able to repeat? In Valor in Winnipeg, I'm excited at the potential for Rob and Gale to have these guys again that we know well playing potentially as his wingers or fullbacks in Brett Levi's and Fraser Aird. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with it. Are they going to be able to use these experienced players to define or to ignite their attack? You go to Edmonton, you got Keven Aleman on the show. I think the triumvirate of Keven Aleman, the returning Hansen Boakai and Easton Ongaro, like how is Paulus going to use those three to have a dynamic attack? Cavalry, Tommy Wheeldon is fascinating to watch as a coach and his approach and his tactics and stuff. But yeah, you mentioned Marcus Haber. Will this kind of reignite things for him? Because I think when you think about Pacific last year, I think I can understand beyond the injury some reasons why Marcus wouldn't be as successful as he could be. I think part of that might be on Marcus, but part of that might have been on maybe the coaching, the coach's approach or the setup.
There was some big failings coaching wise at Pacific last year.
Yeah, and then Pacific, Pa Modou Kah, love the guy, looking forward to him. But then also, just to name one, like Bustos.
Yeah,
Will Bustos be able to go in and be who he can be? Week in, week out, game in, game out in this short tournament. Will he be because he has the potential to lead this team? And so how will he perform and the dynamic he'll have with his teammates? I'm interested to see how that's all gonna
could be kind of interesting in a few regards. Like Tern Campbell there as well. It's like, can he follow up what he did last season? Because last season we saw the Tern Campbell that we'd seen when he was in the residency, but he couldn't do it when he was with WFC2. But then he didn't get the run in the team. He didn't have the quality around him, perhaps. So many questions.
With Haber gone, too, he is like the man, right? They're going to be relying on him. So that also, I think, be at least a different dynamic to when he started playing, last year.
I mean, just talking to you in these first two parts, and it was only going to be the one part, but I just got so excited talking about the tournament. I'm buzzing for it just now. I just wish it was starting because there's so many questions and there's so many guys that we know and we've followed them through the ranks. And when I speak to Pa, we speak about Boosty and what he could be and what he hasn't been and why he maybe hasn't been. So you'll be intrigued to hear about that. So yeah, totally excited about this tournament. It is the only thing that's happening for the CPL. After this tournament, there are rumours, and David Clanachan talked a little bit there about the Canadian Championship. The Canadian Championship is going ahead. That's definite. What it's going to look like, we're not sure, because I've heard two different rumours. One is that the three MLS teams will go and join possibly in PEI and be part of a kind of tournament thing there. But the other thing that we've heard is because the Canadian teams are going to be playing each other in a never-ending series of matches over the next 6 weeks. Whoever has the best record out of those games is then going to play whoever wins a second CPL tournament, and they'll play for the right to represent Canada in the Champions League next year. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Zach?
Man. I highly value the Voyageurs Cup, again, because it's something that is so highly connected to the supporter culture in Canada and so many individual supporters who have given so much over the years that have shaped things for people. In the supporter world, there's the well-known phrase, you're standing on the shoulders of giants, and even in Canada, some of these people who have been involved in setting up things like the Voyageurs Cup and locally the Cascadia Cup, you owe them a lot of gratitude for what they did and their foresight and all that kind of stuff. So the Voyageurs Cup will always be meaningful, really meaningful to me. I really hope it doesn't become just the best of those three MLS teams versus the winner of this year's Canadian Premier League. I think that would minimize it too much. I could probably get over it and understand, again, unique year.
Yeah.
We're in crazy times, but ideally I would like to see all the Canadian Premier League teams and the MLS teams. And I think, is everyone else ruled out?
Yes, the League One Ontario and the Quebec team were not going to be in it. No matter what happens, just they can't be part of it.
So I would love to see all those, those 11 teams in some way, shape, or form be able to have some kind of competition between them for the Voyageurs Cup with as many, not as many games as possible. A single elimination knockout tournament. I know 11 does not make that happen easily. You have to do some buys or some alterations or whatever, and you don't have time. There's no time for group stage. I don't think there's much time for group stages and all that.
I mean, logistically, it's a nightmare because if you're saying you're moving teams into the bubble at the end of this, they have to quarantine. If it's not in a bubble, how safe is that? Clearly safer than travelling around the US right now, but that's a whole other thing that we'll come to later. But logistically, it's tough. I can see why they would want to just have an MLS team or a CPL team. What happens if Forge win the whole thing? They're then in the CONCACAF Champions League and the CONCACAF League.
Yeah, that's true.
They've got two bites of the cherry. What they were called.
They could draw themselves.
Oh, that would be peak CONCACAF.
I'm sorry. That's no. I also hope that it's something more meaningful than just a one-off final or whatever. I would not be opposed to the if it can work out. The MLS teams joining the CPL teams at the end on PEI. However, as you know from being on the conference call, there's some in PEI maybe who aren't super excited that a few hundred people are invading their island when local people or people who have residencies there can't return there right now. But
that was a surprise to me when I heard that. But I mean. The thing which I'd been hearing wasn't that whoever won the Island Games was going to be the representative. It was they were going to have a separate tournament, like a knockout tournament. Now, the thing that I'm thinking about that is what happens to the 4 teams that haven't made it to the round 2? Are they then meant to just hang around PEI, or do they play each other to then play someone else? It's a giant mess by this point.
Yeah, well, we don't have the schedule, but my understanding is the CPL tournament in PEI is supposed to be 39 days, and I think from the 13th to the September 20th or something around that.
Which would tie into when the Whitecaps, TFC, and Montreal are meant to be in their never-ending thing. I mean, you could have the 4 teams that don't make it to the group stage. They play each other in a round robin. Whoever wins that moves on into the Voyageurs Cup, along with the 4 teams that made it to round 2. So there's 5. Then you bring in your 3 MLS teams. Then you've got 8. Then you can have a kind of straightforward knockout draw. I like that.
There are ways to do it. I hope it's more meaningful than just the best of the MLS versus the best of the CPL.
Yeah.
Because you really like to see kind of a true cup competition format like we've talked about many times in the past. You like to see CPL teams have more than one CPL team potentially have chances at knocking off an MLS team, right? You don't want an MLS teams like just in the semifinals or something like it's been in the past.
Nothing for me is better than cup football when it's done properly. When you've got farcical things like the Champions League where you're not even a champion, that devalues it. I like the knockout stages, that's exciting. I can't be arsed with group stages with people that's not really champions and it's just all about money. But if you have a proper cup competition with knockout rounds, I think that's probably why I've enjoyed MLS's back so much, because having it so much of it as a knockout tournament, it was great. The games were exciting, teams went for it. You got penalty shootouts. You had underdogs going through. Hopefully we can get something like that. There's talk that they are going to do something with the US Open Cup as well. So that might be the window that would allow the MLS teams to do it before they potentially have to relocate to the US. Anything else you want to say about the Island Games before we wrap this up, Zach?
I just encourage our listeners. I think most of our listeners are on some level wanting to watch it anyways. But if you were on the fence or you weren't too sure or whatever, I hope you'll choose to watch it, whether that's on One Soccer or when it's on CBC or wherever it's going to be on. I hope people will watch this because I think it's going to be something special. I'm
so looking forward to it. We're going to delve a lot more into it in the next couple of parts of this show, but that's it for me chatting to Zach. Just before we go though, Zach, let us know where everyone can find you online.
You can find me occasionally tweeting at ZacharyAM.
That's great. Always a pleasure chatting to you, Zach. Really enjoyed this. As I said, it was meant to just be one part, but it's just got me so enthused for the tournament, and maybe we can do some watch-alongs or maybe we can do some post-game stuff on YouTube, because I enjoyed doing that with you and Steve as well, and maybe get some guys involved from elsewhere, whatever team we're covering. Let's make that happen. But we're going to be a lot more CPL chat coming up. We're going to be speaking to Jeff Paulus and Keven Aleman from FC Edmonton. But up next after the break, it's the man we talked about there. He's leading Pacific FC for the first time, Pa Modou Kah. And we'll be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Marcel de Jong, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Two pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. I'll have 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. I'll have some pickled onions and a little bit of cheese, please. Thank you. 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. And I've got all the right money and all that, please. Thank you. Oi, 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. Hey, 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. I've been here half hour and I'm getting very thirsty.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part is the first of tonight's three-of-a-kind songs. For anyone that hasn't listened to the show before, what we do at the starts of parts 3, 4 and 5 is play a song. And each song is connected in some way. Your job is to try and A, work out what the link is, and B, if you've worked it out by the end of the first 2 songs, try and guess what the third song might be. That was the first of tonight's selections, as I mentioned. Going way back to 1980 with this one of my all-time favourite punk bands, Splodginess Abounds, with their single 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please, that reached number 7 in the UK charts, and is taken from their eponymous debut album, Splodginess Abounds. What do you think the link might be? Have a think about that, and we'll be back with the second selection to kick off part 4. So let's get back to the Canadian Premier League chat now. And we're going to bring you the first of our feature interviews in this week's show. We're heading over to the island to catch up with Pacific FC head coach Pa Modou Kah. The 40-year-old former Whitecaps player took over Pacific FC in January this year. Those seem like such different times now than from when he was first appointed, and it's been a very difficult first 5 or 6 months in charge for Pa, as I'm sure you can imagine, trying to balance everything with the pandemic, build the team, sign players, get some chemistry going, not sure what's happening with the season. Will it be back? When will it be back? Where will they be going? We at least now have some answers, and we know that the Island Games tournament in PEI is kicking off this week. So I got a chance to sit down for a chat with Pa just before they flew off to PEI. to look at joining Pacific, what he's hoping from the team, what kind of coach he's going to be, and a lot more besides. And just a little listener advisory here. It was not a great line between Vancouver and the island, so it is a little bit difficult to hear a couple of little bits of the interview, particularly in the beginning. Tried to fix the sound the best I could, but as the interview goes on, it does become a lot clearer. Also, Pa was on childminding duty for his kids, so it does get a little bit noisy at times in the background, but hey, that's parenting. What can you do? So without any further ado, make yourself your favourite hot beverage, sit back, grab a chocolate digestive and enjoy my chat with Pa Modou Kah. I'd been kind of hoping to catch up with you for a while, but you went back to Holland, I went back to Scotland, and then COVID hit, so I haven't had a chance to even come over to training like I planned. But how's the last couple of months been for you? Just like both personally and professionally. It's obviously not anything anyone's gone through, but I mean, how have you found the last couple of months?
The world has changed, so me as a person, I always adapt to my environment and surroundings. So as a family, we love spending time with around one another. So I saw it as an extra blessing, still to be around with the family. And one thing we did a lot, we have done very much prior, was baking. I think we bake so much.
Oh wow!
That was baking, cooking every day. Going hiking with the family, walking around, which is a blessing, but and also as well for me starting a new job give you a little more time to be able to stamp things that you want to do, vision and philosophy wise. So for that, I am grateful for the time that COVID, but for the rest of the world, it's obviously a time that nobody expected and nobody was waiting for. So some of the stuff was sad to see how many people that actually lost their life in COVID, and but also thank you to the healthcare system in Canada and everybody around the world working there so to be able to stop this pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough time, and it's hard to get back to kind of normal life and football and stuff like that. But I mean, obviously the Island Games are coming up. You're heading off to PEI, I guess tomorrow. So, are you just itching to get back on the football pitch and actually coaching this team now?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, it's obviously that what you are a sportman, and sport is in everybody's daily life. No matter what, sport is sport, and sport has been on hold due to the pandemic, and I think people now want to and are eager very much to see sports. And for CPL, I think it's very good that they're back on the map, because it is the second year. So it's still important that people watch games and see it. And for my players, I mean, they've done everything that we've asked them to do during the pandemic, So prior to that, it's been, we have to witness something like the pandemic, and having the game taken away from them. I have perspective to enjoy it more and understand that, yeah, because you're there can also be taken away from you. And I think that part showed more appreciation, but they've been top notch. They've been impressive to work with every single player. So they're all itching, and I'm itching for them. So I'm looking forward to see them play games.
I mean, the last couple of years, you've been kind of learning the ropes as a coach. You were an assistant. You were with Whitecaps too. You were helping Carol with the first team here. Then you went to Cincinnati. What was it that made you decide that now was the time to step into the head coach's role with Pacific?
I mean, for me, it's the most important thing when you step in the role is the people around and behind you. right? The trust that you feel from having people that support you. And for me, one of the biggest reason for it is James Merriman, somebody that I know well as a man, and also someone I know well as a coach. Yeah. And we work together at Whitecaps, and him being here, that helps you. And for me, it was one of the biggest reasons, together knowing that one of the owners, we shared a path with Rob Friend, playing against him in Holland, playing against him in Norway, playing against him here in MLS. So, and we share the same vision of what we see football in Canada, and also what we believe in young players. So, and as a young manager, it's always good to dip your feet in an environment where you know that people know who you are as a person, and also they know what you can bring to the table. So therefore, I think it was a great fit, and also having players that knows me as a person, and I know them as person before the players. So for me, I think those things are the most important things. And you never know, timing is everything, they say, and for me, I think it was the right time, because working on the Carl Robinson, I truly learned a lot about man management and things, that how he dealt with it. So going to Cincinnati, I learned again. So everywhere I've been has been a great learning point for me. So, and when you toss into it as a job, you take it, because through experiences when I will get better and I will learn.
I mean, we talked about you moving from like playing into coaching back in the WFC 2 days, and then I know you took the residency to the playoffs and stuff like that. When you look back to those early days here as a coach, what did you learn about yourself and what your coaching style needs to be from those times?
Well, I mean, that's the great thing. I've been fortunate to play the game for a very long time, and I'm fortunate to have great coaches like Chip Stevens and Alain Perrin, who both have won things and taught me about a lot of man management, and also I've seen young coaches, Caleb Porter and Carl Robinson, who also I've learned from, and watching other coaches and see how they do stuff. But my philosophy have always been formed in a very long time, even when I was a player. So, I mean, just seeing coaches work and fine-tune it to the way that I believe is best suited for me and the type of football I want to play. And every day just be curious about the game and keep learning about the game. Even though you've been a player, that doesn't mean that you possess the right to be a coach, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about always learning from people, because anybody that you're around in the game of football, you can learn from. And you have to be a person that is open-minded to want to learn. And for me, that's the most important thing.
I mean, if you're talking about how you're wanting your teams to play, I mean, you look around the world, even just around MLS, you've got former centre-backs like Frank de Boer, and you've got Jaap Stam, and players...
Jim Gooden.
Yeah, players that were centre-backs, and you expect automatically, I guess, that they're going to focus on defence first. Is that how you approach the game, or are you more an attack-minded person?
Nah, me, I've always... The game is what? The game is to score goals before you win. So there's nothing changed with the game of football, whether you are a defender or striker or midfielder. You play to win.
Yeah.
That is the game. It's nothing. It's just very simple. You play to win. And otherwise, what are we playing?
Very true. I mean, you look at the squad that you've built, and I know some of the players you inherited, some of the ones that you've added. I mean, you touched on it already. You know a lot of these guys from your time at the Whitecaps. Has that made it easier for you to go into this role, because you do already know a lot of the guys and they know you?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's what I said, because for me, it's I've been fortunate to have played with some of them. I've been fortunate that some of them have watched me play. And also now I'm fortunate to have coached them prior to coming here. So they know me as a person, and I know them as a person. So that bond is already set and now it's also. But still, as a head coach, you have to still prove yourself.
Yeah.
Right. You still have to prove yourself. Right. They might know you, they know who you are, but by the end of the game, you still have to prove yourself, and also make them believe. But the buy-in that the players have brought, it's been fantastic, and they see what I'm trying to teach them, and every day is a learning curve for me and for them as well. And I, as a player, I was somebody that demanded high standard. As a coach, I'm the same. I also expected from the players towards me as well to hold me accountable as well. So I think them knowing that and knowing me and knowing that, I know them personally, and I know that I can get the best out of them. For me, that's the most important thing.
I mean, your coaching style, like not even so much how you're going to play, but just you as a coach, do you see yourself as the guy that's, if a young player's having trouble, you're more likely to put your arm around them more than just shout at them?
No, I mean, that's what I say. You have to know who the players are as person. Then you know also how to treat them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to treat Victor Blasco the same as I'm going to treat maybe Noah Verhoeven.
Yeah.
You know? So it's two different players with two different characters. So I have to know how to touch their characters and also to understand and make them understand that the best interest is for them to grow and become better human beings. Therefore, they will become better players.
When I think of your time here, and I think if you like spending time with the young players, I know when Fonzie was coming through, you kind of took him under your wing a little bit. I remember doing an interview with you at Swangard, and Fonzie just came and sat down beside us and was listening into the interview and stuff. But you've always come across as a player that enjoys working with the young guys and kind of sharing what you've learned in the game with them.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. They're sponges. I mean, when you have young players and they want to learn, they want to get better, like, I feel it's my duty because what they have given for the past 20 years, I have to give it back. But knowledge is not only for me, it's also helping other players reach their goal, helping other players to become a better version of themselves, but also to go and play places that I've played and been around. For me, there's nothing better than that. When you see you helping young players and they take your path, and therefore, like you talk about Fonzie, and Fonzie will tell you it was not only always a tap on the shoulder with Fonzie, but we went through some learning curve for him as a human being, but also him as a player. That's why he's Fonzie's where he is right now.
Yeah,
it's a true testament to him, but also he knows that what I've tried to tell him, I can see it in his game, and I can see it in him as a person, like the growth he made. And also that's why when I have players like Noah Verhoeven, Alessandro Hojapor, Matt Bodilsimo, Marco Bustos, Darren Campbell, those for me were players that I knew they had the quality, but they were never given the proper chance for them to show it.
Yeah.
And when you never given a proper chance to show it, and the one place that you could have, which was the Whitecaps too, if no longer is there, then it becomes a little bit difficult. You understand?
Oh.
And that's why is the CPL a great place for these young players to showcase what they're capable of. Because for a young player to get to become a good player, you need to play.
Yeah.
You need games. Your games is your best teacher. So we cannot expect young players just to rise and play. Amos Hassel is the greatest example.
Oh yeah.
If he was not tossed in, would we know if he could have kept?
Yeah, that's unfortunately been the thing with the Whitecaps over the last couple of years. And you touched on Bustos there. It's like I've known Marco for years, since he was about 14 when he first came to the Whitecaps, and it's always been frustrating because I know what he can be as a player. And even last year with Valor, I don't think he played, and I think he would admit this himself, he didn't play to what he could do. But the chance to come and work with you seems to have really invigorated him again. And do you feel that you can bring the best out of Marco now?
Oh, I mean, that's what I said. Like, you have to understand who the person is, right? If you just look at the player as the player, that is, and I think that's what some mistakes can be done, that people just look at the player and not focus so much about the person.
Yeah.
Because you have to know the person, because you have to touch the person. The person must trust you. And many of these footballers, they're looking at somebody they know they can trust. Somebody they know that is looking out for them. You know, but that can also play as a father figure or a brother, you know, a confidant. Because, and unfortunately, they've shared with me or they see me play, so it's easier for me because they know that what I'm telling them is truth. I'm not telling them nothing else but what I do believe, what their quality lies, but also what their weaknesses are to get better.
Yeah.
So for me, that is, and I think they can handle the truth coming from me because it's genuine, right? It's not. I'm not telling them nothing, but help for them to be a better player.
I mean, if we look ahead to this tournament that's coming up in PEI, I mean, all the clubs, like, no one really knows what to expect from a lot of them. Cavalry maybe, Forge maybe, because we know what they did last year. But there's a lot of unknown quantities, and it feels like it's very much a level playing field now. And I mean, what are you expecting, not just of your team, but of this tournament?
I expect a lot from the tournament in terms of team, and like you said, with respect to Calvary and Forge being the champion, Calvary being the regular season champion. You know, that there are two teams that if you look at the statistics from last year, the best two teams. So, and we were not that great last year, so it's a fresh start for all teams, especially going into a tournament like this. And of course, nobody has played the game for almost a year, you know. Yeah. So it's a little bit difficult, right? The English Premier League or all these other leagues, they were in season while ours was about to start, but due to the pandemic, not. So it will be. I'm curious to see, and I think there will be definitely some good games. I think there will be some rust as well, but me, I'm looking forward to it. I'm truly looking forward to it. You know, so I think it's there for taking for all teams. You know, there's no early favorite because nobody played for a year. Everybody's trying to find their rhythm in the first couple of games, and then the team that maybe is cricket off the bat, you know, got some point, got some form going on. That can be dangerous, but hey, it's always a playing field. It's level, so it's up to a person to come in, or a person up to a team to come in and showcase their quality from the get-go.
How hard is it to go from not playing, just training, not even full training for a lot of this, not having any pre-season warm-up games, to all of a sudden you're like in competitive action, and from day one it's like you're in competitive football?
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's the other side. Like when people speak about sports as well, it's those things that they don't see. It's like for human beings, like you're talking about the mental and the physical preparation. I mean, for me, I've always said preparation is the key. Just make sure that you prepare yourself. Obviously, like I said, there will be some rust. You haven't had no preseason games or anything. So you're going to be rusty, but mistakes going to be made. And those things are part of the game as well. So for me, it's more about just getting the boys focused, mentally, physical. And at that part, honestly, I have to give thanks to our medical staff and with Brandon Watson, Jamie Neal, and Chris Hinton, who has done a terrific job in preparing the players when the pandemic hit and we couldn't do anything, you know. Yeah. And also huge credit to the boys because they could have easily packed it in, if you understand what I mean.
Oh yeah.
Because and everybody could have packed it in, but I mean, for them to stick with the routine that we created, to work every single day as hard as they did. I mean, for a coach, there's nothing you wish is more than to see players and And also huge thanks to my assistants, James Merriman, Riley, and Mark Village, all the hours that we put. You know, it's and now we get to play football, and all what we want is to see the boys step up and flame. That's the only thing that we're wishing for, that they can go out there and also do themselves justice in the way that they worked. So I'm truly looking forward to it. I'm curious to see the boys step onto the pitch and just play football, enjoy what they love doing.
Oh, yeah. I spoke to Jeff Paulus yesterday, and we were talking about squad rotation and the fact that the first stage of this tournament, the top 4 go through. So the pressure isn't on you necessarily that you have to finish first, you have to finish second. How much do you feel squad rotation is going to be key to this, so that the team that's the freshest for the next part of the tournament is maybe the team that's going to have the better chance of making it to the final?
I mean, like I say, for me, it's you're going into a tournament, and like I say, you haven't played the game for a year, right? It's almost a year. None of the team has played. Training doesn't equal the same as a game. Obviously, the games will come thick and fast, so you need to rotate your players. Your players need to be sharp, and that's why also it has been important that for my group, that's the only group I can speak for, the way that they handle themselves, the way that they've worked through this pandemic, I know that every single player is ready. Yeah. I know that every single player in my squad is ready.
Obviously, you're in the bubble, and it's a tough environment. I mean, MLS have shown that the bubbles are successful, at least, so that eases your mind in that regard. But obviously, you're stuck in the hotel. You can't go and explore PEI and do normal stuff. How much of the mental side of this is going to be key to teams doing well and making sure that the players don't go crazy just sitting in the rooms?
Well, I wouldn't say crazy. And I think, again, due to the pandemic, you can adapt to how the new norms are.
Yeah.
Because you have to be isolated for yourself. You couldn't see your teammates. You couldn't see nobody. You know, and obviously you're in the bubble. But hey, there's people who has it worse than us.
Very true.
Right? There's a people in daily life who has it worse than us. We are staying in the bubble. We get to do what we love, which is playing the game of football, coaching the game of football. All right, we around each other, which is most of the time that we spend beside our regular family. You know?
Yeah.
And it's a tournament-like thing, so you go in there with the mindset of you want to do well. It's not, it changes. So for me, it's you're in a bubble, okay. You still have your life. You're still breathing. You're still waking up every single day. By the grace of God, be grateful, right? Use this opportunity to even get to know each other better. Use this opportunity to learn new things about your teammates, about the people that are there. You know, be open, and I think that we as a group, we see it that way, you know, and we adapt to the situation. That's us. I always say adapt to the environment and the situation you're thrown into, because somebody else has it worse than you. Very
true. It's always a pleasure speaking to you, Pa. I always really enjoy chatting to you. All the best in the tournament. I really hope you do well, and I'm looking forward to seeing what a Pa Modou Kah Pacific FC looks like on the pitch.
Thank you very much. So do I. So do I myself. And hopefully the boys can do themselves justice, man.
That's great. Thanks for your time today, Pa, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
All right, Michael. Thank you very much for the call.
Take care.
Oh, this is my island. Oh, this is my island. From the port on Nice right through the mission till the end of time. Oh, this is my island. Oh, this is my island. We feed the sheep and cut the beans until the day we die.
Yes, that was Pa Modou Kah. Pa Modou Kah. Pa Modou Kah. He's Kah-doo-doo. Always a pleasure catching up with Pa. I've really enjoyed my chats with him over the last couple of years, and it's a good appointment, I feel, for Pacific FC. It might have seemed a little bit out of the box for some people when the appointment was made back in January. but you're appointing a player that has played all over the world. He's played in Norway, he's played in Sweden, he's played in Holland, he's played in Qatar, he's played in MLS with Portland and the Whitecaps. Coaching experience-wise, he was an assistant at WFC2, he took the residency team a little bit. Carl Robinson appointed him to his staff as well. He was both a scout and an assistant at FC Cincinnati, but this is his first head coaching gig. Listening to him there, I'm excited with what he's going to bring to the team. He's a guy, as we kind of touched on with Zach when we were chatting about stuff earlier in the show, that you feel he's going to be a good coach, a good man manager. He's going to be a guy that kind of puts his arm around players when they need it, but not afraid to bollock them at the same time. He likes working with young players, and that's the modus operandi for Pacific, to get all these young players. And he's going to be surrounded by a lot of players that he's known for a number of years now through the Whitecaps. I'm really excited to see what kind of team Pacific FC is going to be with Pa in charge and what kind of a head coach that he is going to be. We touched a little bit about Fonzie there during the interview, and Fonzie wrote one of those kind of player tribune articles, just talking a little bit about his life and his journey to being in Bayern Munich. And the person from the Whitecaps that he name-checked in that article as being the biggest influence on his career was Pa Modou Kah. And like Pa talked there about how he gave Fonzie not just playing advice, but life advice as to how to be a man as well. And that has clearly stuck with Fonzie, and Pa still means a lot to him to this day. So I think Pacific FC's got a good one there. But we're going to head a little bit further east in the next part, where we catch up with some guys from FC Edmonton. And we'll be back with that after this.
Hey, it's Marco Bustos. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Listen to me. No, I don't want a cup of tea. Come on, come on. Hurry up, Harry, come on. Come on, come on. Hurry up, Harry, come on. We're going down the park. We're going down the park.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, we had the second of tonight's Three of a Kind songs, another punk classic, this time from 1978 by the band Sham 69, and that was Hurry Up Harry. Taken from the band's second studio album, That's Life, it reached number 10 in the UK single charts. So have you worked out what the link is yet? Is it that they're just all really good punk songs? Maybe. That is actually a possible link, but that's not the link that we're looking for. We kicked off part 3 with Splodginess Abounds and 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. We kicked off part 4 there with Hurry Up Harry by Sham 69. What is the link? What is the third song going to be? Find out in part 5. Okay, so let's get back to our Canadian Premier League chat now. We've had a look at Pacific FC. Let's move a little bit east, taking a stop off in Alberta and FC Edmonton. Now the Eddies overall in 2019 had 8 wins, 8 draws and 12 defeats from their 28 matches. They finished third in the spring season standings, with 4 wins from their 10 games there, finishing on 14 points, 10 behind spring champions Cavalry FC. But they had a tough go of it in the fall. Again only winning 4 games, this time from 18 matches. That saw them finish second bottom of the fall standings, 18 points, full 20 points behind Cavalry FC at the top. and just 1 point above bottom-placed Halifax Wanderers. We had Jeff Paulus on episode 388 of the AFTN Soccer Show at the end of March, just chatting about the 2019 season and what he was originally looking forward to for the 2020 season, with no one really knowing how long this shutdown was going to last for. There hasn't been a lot of change to the Eddies roster from that 2019 team. 8 players were let go at the end of last season. There's been a few key additions to the roster. Earlier this week, before the team headed out to PEI, they made a couple of new additions to the roster. 20-year-old fullback Tariq Mohammed has been added on loan from TFC. And they also signed another central defender, Sam Gardner. Kind of shores up the Eddies' defence a little bit. Of course, they're welcoming back Amir Didic, who had been on trial with the Whitecaps earlier in the year, but has gone back now to the CPL. And the Eddies are certainly going to be looking to build on the good stuff that they did achieve in 2019. And they're feeling pretty confident heading into the Island Games with what this team can do and what they can achieve there. So I'm going to bring you a little bit of audio now with some of the players and with head coach Jeff Paulus. So we're going to hear my questions to Jeff. We're also going to hear some of the answers from Tomi Amiobi, Amir Didic and goalkeeper Connor James, as they just chat about some of the aspects of the Island Games and what to expect from the team there. First of all, going a little bit back to the test, and having seen what's happened in MLS and through the MLS bubble, has that kind of reassured you to know that the bubble does work?
Yeah, I would say it has. Obviously, when you look at the different sports in North America, like the NHL as well, it's reassuring to know that there's been a lot of measures and protocols that have been put in place to ensure not just the safety of the players and the staff involved, but also the people in that host city. So that is something that obviously we've been keeping tabs on the MLS to see how things are being going down there. And yeah, we're looking forward, like I said, just getting back out on the field.
Yeah, just, do you want to say something, Amir?
Yeah, I was just going to say that obviously they had their problems at the beginning, and that was due to these teams not complying and following their isolation protocols before the trip. And I think, speaking on behalf of our team, we've done a really good job so far in making sure that we're sticking to the guidelines and doing what we're doing here properly, so that when we get there, we're doing our part. And it's just a matter of every other team doing what they have to do in order to get there and get those tests and get them negative. And then hopefully from there, everything will be all right, which I think it will be.
Yeah, I concur with that. You know, I have to say, I mean, when this all first started out, I don't mind saying I've lost sleep over what this was going to look like, and truly the safety of the players at this club and the staff members of this club that they'll be responsible for once we're away. And but I'm satisfied. I've seen all the work that's gone in behind the scenes, you know, from this group of leaders in the CPL. I know that they've put safety. They really have. I have to say, you know, as far as getting there. But what they have set up for us in the hotel, you know, it's going to be safe for the players once we're in PEI. Yeah, and then on the flip side, though, I mean, we're as a team, you know, we had COVID testing done before it was required as a team, you know, and we also made a mandate, you know, and this was a player's decision really in cooperation with the staff that we would get tested every 2 weeks, regardless of what league rules were, because we wanted to be able to look at each other and trust each other and go to work and know that we were taking care of each other. So, yeah, I mean, I'm certainly feel positive that this group's done the right thing.
Kind of about the tournament, obviously you're all really looking forward to getting back to playing again and really excited. I mean, Amir, I spoke to you here in Vancouver back in January. That seems like a lifetime ago when it was like pre-season. I mean, what's it been like? I know, it's just crazy. It's like even you, Jeff, I spoke to you, I think it was May, and that seems like about 6 months or a year ago.
That's right.
But what's it been like for you these last couple of weeks, just waiting for some kind of announcement, just to have some idea of what was going to happen?
It's kind of been a little tough, especially before all this news came of the confirmation of the dates we're playing and such. just because as players and as coaches, it's tough to come into training every day with the mentality, knowing that there's such uncertainty with whether or not we're going to play or not. And within these past couple of weeks, knowing when we're going to play, it's been a game changer, really, in terms of the mentality of the guys, and just knowing that we're going to be able to play this year and we're going to be able to compete for a championship. So it's definitely been really good news for the league and for us as a team.
Yeah, I'll jump in quickly. I think we're actually having a few comments right after training today saying while we're on our last practice here before we head off to PEI, and it was a little bit surreal that it was actually happening, because for the last 2 months or so we've been training, and it hasn't been until about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago that we had a little bit of certainty on the fact that we were going to be playing. Of course, we were all hoping that we were going to be playing all throughout that phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of return to play. But we really didn't have any certainty, and we weren't really hearing anything from the league with a confirmation. So it was kind of tough. You would hear rumors, but you didn't necessarily know that it was actually going to happen. So it's been really reassuring over the last 2 weeks, and I'm happy with how all the boys have approached it.
How difficult is it going to be for you, I guess, mainly, particularly for the players' point of view, to suddenly go from not even playing pre-season games and all of a sudden you're in a tournament, it's a competitive tournament, and from day one you have to be switched on?
I think every team's in the same boat here, and we've been training with the mentality of a game environment, and even our inter-squad games, they're high intensity and high competition. So I think we're prepared in that sense. And like I said, every other team is in the same position without preseason games. So we're just going in with the mentality that we're ready.
Yeah, and I also feel like when it's game time, it's game time. You can do as much prep work as you like, which obviously makes a big difference. But I can speak on behalf of our group that I can say for sure when the first whistle blows that we're going to be ready mentally and physically. So, yeah.
Yeah, the toughest thing I can say has been actually keeping the reins on them, the players, because they want to keep going. And, but because for a while there, we didn't know when that first game was going to be. We only really just found out recently that it would be, we know the first one is August the 13th. They've announced that, I believe. So because of that, they, for us, we were kind of guessing at when we had to have them ready to go, 90 minutes. And so it's a bit of guesswork on the periodization side of things, certainly. But players are just, they want to go 90 minutes, every single day if we would let them. And so that was a challenge for sure. But yeah, I thought today they looked ready, I have to say, in our final practice. So happy days.
The tournament, Jeff, obviously last season, you knew only 2 teams were going to advance to the championship game. But now you've got the different rounds, so you've got a little bit of wiggle room because the top 4 is going to go through. Is that going to be better for you? Because it does give you the chance, if you get off to a bad start, you can still make it right through to hopefully the end.
I think it's good for us. I think I have to say, with this group of players that we have at the squad, I think last year's system would be good for us too, to be fair. We've got some very high beliefs in this group of players. But where the system is nice, so is the staff looks at our roster, and again, the players here, they can answer this as well maybe, but the staff certainly looks at our roster right now, and we see that we're 2 players deep in every position, on this team. So where you've got an event where you've got to play 7 games in a very fast amount of time, and you have to finish top 4, it allows you to be, maybe be strategic, to be able to rest some players where I don't think other teams will have that luxury that we have, where we can give guys a rest, and the player coming in is going to do a great job. And I think we can stay fresh this way, because the key is finishing in the final 4. It doesn't matter to be first or second. It's irrelevant, because the second round's a round robin as well. So there's no benefit to finishing 1 or 2. You're going to play each team once. And I think that the team that can successfully maneuver the 7 games and be the freshest team for the second round will be the successful team. And this is our mindset going on as a staff. And we feel fortunate with this group of players to be able to do this.
I don't know if you know or if you can say anything, but the Canadian Championship, Are you expecting that to be played at the end of this tournament, or is that still up for discussion?
Yeah, those are certainly the rumors that I'm hearing are that. I mean, I know everybody is interested in playing it. I believe there's an appetite Canada Soccer to have this done this year, to not have a year without it. My understanding is the 3 MLS teams are coming back, and the 3 Canadian teams will play in Canada against each other, if they have any sort of league at all. And if that happens and they're in Canada, yeah, I think you'll see something probably happen after this event on that regard. So, yeah, we hope so. We hope so, certainly.
Great stuff there from Jeff Paulus, Connor James, Tomi Amiobi and Amir Dedic. Aside from the 2 players I mentioned earlier, there has been 8 other additions to the Eddies roster for this 2020 season. Hansen Bokai returned back to the Eddies after a stint in Finland with FC Inter Turku. They added 2 key signings from the Whitecaps residency as well, both midfielders Anthony Caceres and Chance Carter. And Peruvian midfielder Raul Tito is going to be an interesting one to watch in this league. But perhaps of all the additions, the player that I'm most interested in seeing what kind of impact he has in the CPL is Canadian Keven Aleman. Now, the 26-year-old came through the ranks of Toronto FC before making a move over to Spain with Valladolid. After a couple of years there, he returned to his native Costa Rica to play his club football with a couple of clubs there, Herediano, Belen, and then Costa Rican giant Saprissa, before heading north to the USL for a couple of seasons with Sacramento Republic. Wasn't the happiest of times for Aleman with Sacramento, and he decided that he wanted to get closer to home, signing a deal with FC Edmonton earlier this year. And I noticed a signing that Jeff Paulus was very excited about. He talked about it in our show back in March, just what Aleman can add to the team in terms of creativity, also with experience for a number of the younger guys there. So I got a chance to sit down with Keven on Friday afternoon, just to chat about his career so far, his move to Edmonton, and what he's looking forward to with the tournament in PEI. I guess first thing to ask you, Keven, is how's the lockdown been for you? I know you were down in Costa Rica when everything started, and we tried to get something arranged way back then, but I was told there's lots of power outages and stuff going on. So what was it like being down there?
So it was at the beginning. So at first when we got, I think it was around 20 cases, the whole country locked down. So it was really good at the beginning. And actually Costa Rica was, I think, one of the top countries for, taking care of the situation, until we started reopening things up and stuff. And by the time it was, I think, just before coming to Canada, we started getting around, I think it was 600, 700 a day, cases a day. So everything was just shut down. Everything, the borders were closed and everything. So they even put a curfew on us. It was from, I think, 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. And so that was every day. And on Saturdays and Sundays, it was you couldn't go out unless you had to go to the grocery store. It was an emergency. So it was pretty bad before coming, and I think until now it's still the same. So yeah, but thankfully, I got out and was able to come here.
Yeah. So when did you get to Edmonton then?
I got here, I think it was July 14th. I got here, July 14th.
Oh, so really quite recent. Wow.
Yeah, it was recent, and I had to be on lockdown for 2 weeks. So
yeah, of course. And now you're going into a bubble and everything.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I mean, we'll have a little look at your signing for FC Edmonton. It's you've done a lot in your career. I know you came through the youth ranks at TFC, and then you were over in Spain for a bit, and you've played so much of your time in Costa Rica. But what was it about signing for Edmonton and coming to the Canadian Premier League at this time of your career that seemed like the right thing and the right fit for you?
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't more of the money, just because, I took a big, probably more than half of my salary that I was making wherever I was in Sacramento. And so it wasn't more because of that. I think it was because I wanted to be more closer to the national team. And at this point, I want to be back on the national team. And I think the 2 years that I spent in USL were really bad for me in my career, even though I think I did really well, and I grew as a player, and in a lot of in a lot of aspects. But I don't think it was the right decision going to the USL. And I think there's a lot of growth that's going on here, and I could be a lot closer to the national team. And I think that's my goal right now, is getting back into the national team, and then seeing where I could go from there. But my goal at this point in my career is to get back into the national team, and to be a guy to be called on, almost, if I can, every national camp, and I have that goal. And I think I know that with my abilities, I can do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the national team, so we may as well look at that now, because I know back in the day there was a lot of chatter. It's like, will you switch to Costa Rica? Will you stay with Canada? Because you'd played all the youth stuff with Canada. Was it a tough decision for you, or was Canada always what you were wanting to play for?
Honestly, after my under 17, that I went to the World Cup with Sean Fleming, I think after that, I think it was a no-brainer for me. I wanted to stay here in Canada, and just because of everything that the country has done for me and my family, and I think just because of that, it was sort of an appreciation from me to the country that that gave me everything, that saw me grow up in, which was after I was 10 years old. And I think it was just, an appreciation for everything that's done for my family, which until this day, my family is still here. And, my sisters go to college here. One of my sisters goes to college here. The other one is going into high school this year. So I think it's just, because of all of that. I personally, in my off season, I like to go back to Costa Rica just because of the weather, and I have my grandma over there. And but yeah, I mean, my family's still here, and they love it here, and I think they don't even want to move back to Costa Rica. So I think it's just because of that, an appreciation.
Yeah, I think an Edmonton or Canadian winter compared to Costa Rica at that time of year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's only one decision you're going to make in that case.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Is it going to be weird, do you feel, playing back in Canada again? Because you haven't actually played domestically for club football since 2011 here. I know that was even just at youth level. Does it feel weird being back now and actually playing football?
I don't think it does. I think it would feel weird if I was in Toronto, but at this moment, I'm not around my family, and it feels like I'm still aboard at somewhere that right. It doesn't feel like home at this time. So I feel like it feels like my job, and I'm still if I was like in Sacramento or anywhere else in the world. So to me, it doesn't feel weird being back. It just feels like it's my job, and it feels like another place where I have to work. And if I was back with my family in Toronto, and I was going to training every day, and all of that, I think it would feel really weird. Yeah, because I haven't done that in a long time. So I think that would feel really weird.
The CPL, I mean, you touched on your hopes for the national team. I don't know how much you got to see of the league last year, but when you see guys that were playing in the league getting call-ups to the national team, Carducci, Zator, Borges, guys like that, it's like the league was getting paid attention to by John Herdman. Was that one of the factors that made you think, well, if I go there, eyes are going to be on it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that was a big factor because in the USL, there's a lot of Canadians that, are doing well. Bustos was there for a couple of years, I think. Yeah. And we've had Tyler Pasher is doing really, really well right now with his club right now. And I think Canadian players don't get looked at in the USL. Not only Canadian players, but even American players. No one from the USL really goes to the MLS, or I didn't know it was like that when I first came into the USL. I thought it would be a lot different, but I was wrong. And being there and seeing from last year, I think there was a couple teams that wanted me in the league, and for the first season. And I didn't think, from my perspective, I didn't think it was a good idea to move in the first year of the league season. And I was wrong. There was so many people that got called up, and a lot of talent that went overseas, and and I think this year there could be a lot more than what there was last year, and a lot of more talents could be seen by the national team, and maybe get called up to an MLS team or anywhere else. So I think the league did really well, for the first year. And it's too bad all of this happened, but I think this second year would have been a lot better, and there would have been a lot of growth in this year.
Yeah, the timing's kind of not been ideal, I guess. But I mean, I've watched a lot of USL because I covered Whitecaps too when they were out here and commentated on their games and stuff. And from what I've seen in the CPL, the difference, it's negligible. I mean, the talent's there. It's a good league. When you were growing up, though, could you ever have imagined that there was going to be a domestic league in Canada and you'd have the choice of teams to actually play for?
Honestly, I never even thought about it. I didn't think there was ever going to be, a league, a first division league here. And, I thought it was always going to, just because, in every league, NHL or what other league is it? The NBA. And, we have our clubs in with the American league. So there has never really been a first division, for basketball teams, here in Canada, or for NHL, just a Canadian league. So that never really crossed my mind that, Canada could come to that point of having our own league. And, it really surprised me when it happened.
Back in the day, the Whitecaps traded for your MLS rights. Do they still hold that? Or do they expire? Or if you wanted to go MLS, do the Whitecaps have to agree to trade you? I don't know how that works now.
Yeah. Honestly, I until this day, I have no idea how that works. I have no idea. I haven't tried talking to Vancouver or to Toronto or to any of the teams, but that's a good question because
yeah,
I don't know what would happen if I were to go, to an MLS team. If Vancouver still has my rights, I don't know how that works.
I mean, were you ever close to even joining Vancouver? Like, did they try and sign you?
Yeah, so when my rights were traded, they flew me out to Vancouver, and I was there for, I think it was 3 weeks around there. I was there with my agent at the time, and but that was before going into the World Cup. So what I told Vancouver was, let's wait and see what happens, and I'll see what happens with the World Cup, see how I play and everything. So after the World Cup happened, that's when I got a couple options in Europe, and I never really thought about Vancouver. I thought the best option would have been Europe. So but they did. They reached out to me, and they had me over there in Vancouver. I saw the city. I saw their facilities. They took me around the facilities, and I met everybody in the offices, and it was really nice. Yeah.
Let's look ahead then to the games that's coming up. I mean, you signed so long ago, and it's like you've just been dying to get on the pitch. I'm sure we spoke to a few of the guys yesterday. You're just itching to get started.
Yeah, especially for me. I mean, the boys I've been training for, a while now, but I got here 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, so I've been training for 2 weeks, and I worked so much over there back in Costa Rica and here, so I'm just excited to leave tomorrow and to get to work. Yeah, I can't wait, to be honest. I can't wait.
Oh, I can imagine. It's like, I think all the fans as well are just really wanting to see the league back going again. I spoke to Jeff about you not long after the signing and like what he was expecting for you, and he feels with your experience. I mean, you're still young, but you're very experienced, and you can bring a lot to this team. What do you feel you can bring to the team, and what do you see your role being with Edmonton this season?
Yeah, I think from training, I think just I think I don't know how to say it, the spirit that I have to want things. I think I can pass that on to the guys. Just because a lot of the guys are young here on the team, and maybe they haven't played anywhere else, and I think the spirit that you get from wanting to win a game, or from wanting to train hard, and to want the quality at a certain level that requires to be a championship team. I think I can bring that to the team, and that's what I've been trying to do. And I think most of all, that's what I've seen, from my 2 weeks at training, and from being here. We have, I think this is the first group where I feel old, because I've always been, a young guy. So right now I got to take a different type of a role on the team, but yeah, I feel there's a lot of young players and good talent on the team. So I think I need to step up to, a different role now that I'm getting, I just turned 26 on March. So I have to take a different role on the team, which is good for me. It helps me out in my career. And, for the long run, I already know that, I have to start taking a different role on the team that I'll be on,
I was just going to ask you that, because I was just looking up on Wikipedia just now how old you were, because we've been talking about you for years, and it's like you're still just 26, and it must be weird because you are like the old guy in the team in some regards, but I mean, it's a good leadership role for you. Going to somewhere then like PEI, it's going to obviously be new to everyone. No one's been in this kind of bubble environment amongst any of the players. I'm sure there were concerns, but when you saw how successful the MLS one was once everyone got in the bubble, did that kind of reassure you that everything was going to be safe?
Oh, yeah. I think there was no doubt in my mind that it was going to be safe. I think Canada usually waits, sees how it turns out in the U.S., and makes it better. So I think, there was no doubt in my mind that this is going to go well. I think so. It's just, the things, the precaution that Canada always takes in everything, in sports and, just in general. I think, everything will be fine, just because we always kind of sit back and see how the U.S. does it and what we can improve, just because I've lived in the U.S., and I know how things are, and Canada just kind of sees how it goes and how we can improve it, and they always do. They always make it better. So
it's going to be tough for all the teams, but you're all kind of going at it in the same way. But how hard is it for you as a player to suddenly go from just training and not even like hard training for this whole time to all of a sudden flick a switch, you're in competitive games from the start, and you've not had any warm-up matches, no pre-season friendlies, nothing like that? Is it easy to get up to that level and that speed that you need right away?
Yeah, honestly, in my case, I think, I'm always ready, and I'm always, even in training. I mean, I'm living with Sean right now, and Sean Fleming is our second coach, and I think he can tell you, that I'm not lying. And I think, every training session I treat it like, it's a game, and I go out and fight, and I just always want to get myself ready. I'm always thinking, even when I'm outside of the soccer pitch, I'm always thinking what could be the best thing for me, in terms of training and everything. So I think in my case, I'm always a competitive guy, and I just have that in the back of my head. So I think it won't be easy. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but I think in my case, I think I'm ready. That's why I prepare myself every day too, and I always keep that in the back of my head, especially from when we found out that, our first game is going to be on the 15th. I always just kept that in the back of my mind. And, we're now a week and a little bit away from the game. So I got to treat it as, we're in a week away from the game, and when when you have that, you have a little rush and you're always thinking of it. You're always thinking of the game. So
obviously you've not trained that long with your teammates so far, but from what you've seen, and it's going to be kind of the same for all the teams because you're going to feel each other out in the early stages, but what have you made of your team so far? Do you feel that this is a team that can go far in this tournament?
Yeah, well, I haven't, seen any of the teams, how they play or, so I think from what I've seen, I think it is a team that that could go far. I mean, I think it's a championship team, and but we will see. We'll see on our first game and adjust things that we need to adjust. I think it's going to be very hard because there's going to be a lot of mistakes being done, and you can't really tell, if this team really in the long run could have been a potential a championship team, just because during the whole season, you make mistakes and you fix it for the next game, and you have 30 games or 20 games to fix things in the long run of the year. But here is everything has to be quick, so you have to manage, learn how to manage all those things and learn quick, because if you make a mistake this game, the next game it's 3 days away, so you gotta adjust, and you gotta keep your mind active. I think that's it. So I think this whole tournament is just gonna be about mistakes and taking care of those little details that make those mistakes. So I think it'll be a very different kind of setting, obviously, but you just can't tell if the team is in a long season would have the same.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
the same outcome is what I meant.
It's going to be lonely, obviously. You're like locked away. You can't go and explore PEI, or you've not got the outside world to go and explore. Mentally, how are you going to keep switched on and not go stir crazy?
I think that's going to be hard. Yeah. Especially just because on away trips, you're 2-3 days in a hotel and you're already going crazy. You already want to go back. But I think players are just going to have to be really focused and mentally ready. I mean, everything is going to be about soccer while you're there. That's all that's going to be in your mind, right? I mean, you're there for 40 days, and I think, we're here, we get paid for this, and I mean, we got to be professional about this. So we just got to be switched on and be professional about it. I think that's the only way I can describe it.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Good luck out there in PEI. Hope you don't go too stir crazy, and yeah, good luck. Hopefully you're in it for the long time, and we'll speak to you in a few weeks.
Steady Eddie. Steady Eddie. Steady Eddie. Steady Eddie. Steady Eddie. Steady Eddie. Eddie, go steady with me.
Keven Aleman there. As I mentioned before the chat, really looking forward to seeing what he can do with the Eddies this season. He's really looking to get himself back in the Canadian national team picture, has 4 senior caps to date. And I think being in that environment in Edmonton, under Jeff Paulus, Sean Fleming, that he knows so well from his youth days, I think we're going to see a kind of invigoration of Aleman's career, and I think it is going to move him back into what we expected from him. And it is also going to be interesting to kind of find out if the Whitecaps do still have his rights. I imagine that they will, but that is something that I will check up on. He's looking to kind of put himself in the shop window, not just for Canada, but also with a bigger move. So who knows what will happen in that regards. And the Island Games tournament is certainly going to be very key for Aleman and a number of players really in the CPL that might be looking to move on to bigger and better things. But that is it for our CPL chat for this episode. So we've covered Pacific FC and Edmonton in this episode. As I mentioned at the start, we are hoping to cover some of the other teams as well over the coming weeks, so we'll be bringing you a few more interviews from other teams around the league. Hope you've enjoyed the CPL flavour we've brought to this episode, but we're going to be back after the break and turning our attentions to Major League Soccer. Because not only is the MLS is Back tournament wrapping up on Tuesday, the return of teams to home markets was also revealed by Don Garber on Saturday morning. And we're going to be back chatting about all of that after this.
Hey, I'm Brett Levis, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the final part of tonight's AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part was the final selection of tonight's three-of-a-kind tunes. Another punk classic from 1982 this time, Peter and the Test Tube Babies, banned from the pubs, from their EP of the same name. You can also find that track on their debut studio album, Pissed and Proud. Did you work out what the link was? We kicked off part 3 with Splodginess Abounds, 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps please. We kicked off part 4 with Sham 69 and Hurry Up Harry, and kicking off this final part, Peter and the Test Tube Babies, banned from the pubs, and yes, the link was pubs. In the first tune, lead singer Max Splodge is trying to get served in a pub and buy a drink, and the other two is all about pub culture. So if you got that, congratulations. If you didn't, it was an easy one, how not? But we'll be back next week with another three of a kind. So we're going to get back to the football chat now, and we're turning our attentions away from the Canadian Premier League and into Major League Soccer. The MLS is Back tournament wraps up on Tuesday evening with a final that I don't think any would really have predicted. You may have guessed one of the teams in it, but I'm not sure you would have got the other. Portland Timbers take on Orlando City. Both teams have looked really strong in the tournament, and I think they probably do deserve to make it into the final. Of course, it wouldn't really be an MLS final without one of the Whitecaps' Cascadia rivals being in it. And it's happening again in 2020. The Timbers are in an MLS final. When, oh when, will it be the Whitecaps' turn? Will we ever see it? Well, I think you have to hope that we will one day, because without hope, football fans have very little. And I think Orlando City are probably a good example of how teams can turn things around very quickly in the league. The Purple Ones have been in MLS since 2015, and not once have they finished in the playoff positions. They made another managerial appointment in December, their 5th coach in the MLS era, the experienced Oscar Perea, heading back to MLS after a stint down in Mexico with Tijuana. He's coached Colorado, he's coached FC Dallas. Always a coach that I had a lot of admiration for, and what he's done with Orlando City in the short time that he's been there has been absolutely phenomenal. Yes, you can say they've had a little bit of home field advantage because of the heat and being used to Florida weather, the thunderstorms and everything that goes with that, but they still have to do it on the pitch, and they certainly have. And you've seen the growth of the team during the tournament, and that was something I got a chance to ask Oscar Perea after that semi-final win with Minnesota, just how this group has changed over the course of the tournament, and here's what he told me. The start of the tournament a month ago, it seems so long ago now, but when you're looking back at that team and that first game and the comeback win to where the team stands now, what are the biggest differences you've seen from the team over the last 4 weeks?
The difference is that we're growing. The difference is that we have compromise with this idea. The difference is the boys are engaged each other with the purpose, with the system, and with the objectives, and then they're training hard. I think the talent is there, and now we're gelling, and we're getting results as a result of all those things that are happening in the field.
Oscar Perea there, and they face a tough task against Portland in the final. But we've said they've faced a task tough before over the course of the tournament. You have to feel Gio Savarese's men are heading into the final as favourites, but I would not write Orlando off, and I'm actually going to give my tip for Orlando in this one. We'll see how it all plays out. Kickoff is scheduled for 5:48 PM Pacific time on Tuesday evening. The game will be live on TSN. As I said when we were chatting to Zach earlier, I've really enjoyed this tournament. Possibly a lot more than I thought I was going to. Having the chance to see all the games on TSN have helped. I've seen teams that normally, if I had to go and watch them DAZN or whatever, I wouldn't be going to watch them. I might watch the highlights, I might not, especially for the Eastern teams. So it's been good to see them. MLS is back, and it's not going away. As Don Garber revealed to media on Saturday morning, after days of rumours, the MLS regular season returns to play on Wednesday, August 12th, so the day after the MLS is back tournament final. And it's kicking off with the first of 3 matches between FC Dallas and Nashville to make up for the games that they didn't get to play in the group stages during the tournament when they were both sent home for positive COVID tests. There's going to be games on the 12th and the 16th, and then the rest of the league kicks in. Each club is expected to be playing 18 regular season games in a phased approach, with the final day of the regular season scheduled for November 8th. After that, 18 clubs will advance into the MLS Cup playoffs. There'll be 10 from the East, because Nashville are moving into the East to make up 14 teams. And then there'll be 8 from the West, who will be down to 12 teams for the rest of the season. So 3/4 of the teams in the West are going to make the playoffs. If you're one of those teams that don't make that, you're not a very good team. And you really don't want to be one of those 4 teams that misses out, I have to say. Now, the return is going to be in 2 phases. The initial phase, teams are going to be playing between 6 and 8 matches against local rivals. So, for example, in the Western Conference, you've got games between the 2 LA teams, Seattle, Portland, San Jose and Real Salt Lake. That is to cut down travel, cut down risk of exposing yourself to COVID, and they'll be doing that by teams flying in and out on the same day that the games are played, and they'll just be going from the plane to the stadium and then back home again. That does seem like it's going to negate the risk, but then that in itself could be negated by the fact that Major League Soccer, where local procedures and state authorities and CDC recommendations allow, will be allowing fans to attend matches, which I find frankly horrific, stupid, and it's like they've not learned anything at all from what's been happening in the USL, where a spate of teams have come down with positive COVID tests and matches have had to be called off. We've seen positive tests in baseball as well. It's working best where there's been a bubble. MLS is back, the CPL tournament that's coming up. But MLS want to be in a position where fans can attend games. I'm going to play you a little bit shortly from Don Garber's press conference on Saturday, where he touches on all these things. And basically, the attitude is, we've got to try it. If it doesn't work, we'll address it after that. By that time, the harm could very well be done. Someone could have COVID and pass it on to a family member that is in an at-risk group. Or worse still, get it really bad, have a condition maybe themselves that they don't know about, or do some long-term damage to their lungs. I just think it's frankly ridiculous to be looking to do this just now. And things get even more farcical for the Canadian teams. So the rumours that we heard and talked about a couple of weeks ago are true. The Canadian teams, with the border still being closed, will be playing each other in a series of round-robin games. Vancouver will play 3 matches against Montreal, 3 against Toronto. The hope is that those games will see each team play 3 matches in their home stadium. But there's a lot of rumours floating about that even that is not going to be possible. We'll hear Don Garber talking a little bit about that in the conference call in a sec, where he kind of indicates that they're still having issues trying to get the teams the authority to even do training right now. So there seems to be a lot of stuff up in the air. It was announced in the press release that Major League Soccer is continuing to work with the league's 3 Canadian teams regarding plans to continue the regular season. More details on schedules, etc. for the Canadian teams will be announced in the near future. The expectation is the border will not be open even if they are able to get those games done by September 14th, and they're going to be expected to relocate down to the US. There was a report came out on Sunday morning that Toronto is already looking at playing games out of New York Red Bull Stadium in New Jersey. Glass City revealed during the week that it looks like the Whitecaps are considering playing their games out of Portland. All absolutely farcical. I won't go into that too much just now. I know we're running short of time. We've had a busy show. We're going to delve into that a lot more in the next episode of the show once a few more things are known, once I've had a chance to speak to Mark DeSantis and Axel Schuster about it. But for now, I want to bring you the most pertinent points, questions and answers from Don Garber's press conference on Saturday morning. It was a 44-minute press conference. I've got it down to about 14 minutes for you here. So here's Don Garber.
We are the league.
You're entering into this new phase. You look at what's happening with baseball, and in some cases with the USL as well. What makes you think maybe, what's your argument against the adage of quitting while you're ahead after a very successful?
Jeff, I don't think. Listen, quitting is never an option. Think of all the challenges that MLS has had throughout its history, I never believed, and I know our owners and staffs never believed in quitting when we're ahead, right? And we've not been ahead a whole lot, right? So I think in this case, Jeff, we believe it's important to get back to doing what it is that we're able to do successfully in Orlando, and that's get our players on the field and start to engage with our fans. And there were enormous challenges in Orlando, and there was risk involved in Orlando, and it wasn't easy. As you know, we had challenges in the beginning, but just managing it day to day was difficult. So while we're mindful of the challenges of getting back into markets that other leagues have experienced, there are a handful of things that I think we learned that I am hopeful will help us. First is our players knew in real time, very, very early, how challenging it is, how important it is to follow medical protocols, and what could happen if you don't. What happens if you don't is you test positive and you go into isolation. And that is disruptive to your personal life, your family life, and certainly it's disruptive to what it is that you do for a living. The second is that I think that we've learned some of the cadences of testing and some of the challenges that you need to face in terms of decision making. And as I finished with, we've accepted the fact that we're going to have challenges. And I think we're all dealing with this in our country, and we're dealing with this throughout the world. And I think this is something that has become a new normal for all businesses. Restaurants are coming back, but restaurants are coming back outdoors. That's the new normal in most cases. So what we're doing here is getting it started. We believe we have a good plan. We believe our players and our staff are focused on adhering to our protocols. And if we're able to do that, we ought to be able to get our games in. And if we can't do that in a way that's safe and one that's ensuring the health of our players, then we'll have to address it. And if it doesn't work, then we won't move forward after that period of time.
Well, congratulations on the tournament. I think you proved that the protective bubble concept really works, and you guys made that work. But I'm curious to follow up on Steve's question. When you made the decision to suspend play on March 12th, there had been, in the U.S., there had been 38 deaths and 1,323 infections. We're coming back next week, 5 months later, and there's 60,000 infections a day. And overnight, there was a death every 70 seconds with COVID. So if things were bad enough to stop 5 months ago, why are they okay to come back now? Especially, you're talking about having fans in some stadiums and stuff. Infectious disease people experts say this is not a good idea. Why do you think it is?
Kevin, I think it starts with, our infectious disease doctors and those that are working closely with us and work closely with us in Orlando have supported the protocols that have been put into place. And if those protocols are followed, then we will be able to protect the health and safety of our players and our staff. So I don't think it is, I don't know how to respond to why we made the decision then versus now. We made the decision to go to Orlando at a time when nobody had any sense that the bubble concept would work. And I think right now we are confident in what protocols have been put into place. And as I've said, if it doesn't work, then we don't go forward. So I don't think life can stop And as we start, and I'm not quite sure what other industries are doing to think, or other leagues are doing to think about its relationship to the decision then versus the relationship to the decision now. I'm confident that we have a good plan. I'm confident in our players adhering to that plan. And if it doesn't work well, then we'll address it at that time.
My question is about fans in the stands. You know, I know that you made just kind of a general statement that some markets may be able to have some fans in the stands and others may not. Based on what you know so far, I mean, are you expecting most, some, just a few, and how will those determinations be made? And what, you know, how many markets do you really think will be able to have fans in the stands?
Well, again, that really is dependent on the individual states, Michelle. So there are a number of states in our country that are allowing limited number of fans to sports events today, right? And in those states where we have clubs that have an interest, and not all of our teams do, but those clubs that are interested in welcoming fans where their states allow, we will consider it after they submit a plan. And that plan is following the guidelines of our ID doctor and following the protocols that have been established by the states and by the CDC. So it's important to say that any plan needs to be in accordance with the CDC guidelines and with the state guidelines. And in the event that it passes that, then we will consider it. No plan has been approved to date. That process has just started. I don't anticipate that it is going to be a lot of markets in phase one, but that process really is going to continue, I think, as more and more states either decide to allow fans for sports events, and some states that have decided to allow them might change their mind. But we're going to follow the lead of the local authorities and the CDC.
Given the current state of the pandemic in this country and the way that the issue has been politicized, are you really confident that the local restrictions and the CDC guidelines are going to do enough to protect the fans in the stands? And I'm also curious, at this stage, why are fans in the stands acceptable to the league?
Well, again, Jeff, as I've stated before, if there is a state that has laws or guidelines that have been put into place that are already allowing fans to attend events, we will consider it from our teams, assuming that they are creating a protocol that is in accordance with those guidelines and the CDC. Right? There are leagues, as you know, that are allowing fans, and sports that are allowing fans. So we believe that it is smart for us to consider it. And not take the decision at this point to have a blanket rule to prevent it from happening. I will say that clubs need to submit their plans, and those plans need to be in accordance with those guidelines in order for us to give them the nod to go forward. So that's the best way that I could answer that. We're not looking at this from a political perspective, Jeff. I mean, we've got to make a decision that is the right decision for our clubs and for the league, and we're not making those decisions driven by politics.
Commissioner, is there any way that you can go a little bit more into details about what's going on right now in Canada? Is there a scenario in which Canadian teams move down to a site somewhere in the United States? How far along are those discussions? And also, is there a scenario in which, just like Nashville and Dallas and Orlando, Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver are excluded from ending the season in MLS? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, there is no plan whatsoever to exclude Canadian teams from continuing to play. You know, we are working in real time to get first approval for our Canadian clubs to return to begin training. And that is something that we hope can happen soon. And then it is a follow-up process to get approval on overall return to play in Canada, which would be the three clubs playing against each other north of the border within the country, so intra-country play. And then sometime thereafter, and hopefully we'll be able to receive that approval in time and satisfying whatever their questions are and concerns that they have, that we could receive approval for what the future of that might be, in phase 2. And that's just work that has not yet been completed. So the first phase is getting them to return to train. The second phase is getting them to approval for them to play against each other up north of the border in Canada.
You mentioned obviously following local authorities, and you've acknowledged that there could be issues already with the return to play in markets, as we've seen with Major League Baseball and USL. Why add the element, even the potential element of fans, where you could have you're introducing new potential issues to what will already be a challenging return to play in local markets? Why not follow Major League Baseball's lead and play in front of empty stadiums regardless of local government?
Well, again, Paul, I'm hesitant to even talk about the other leagues. Their plan was developed many, many, many months before where we are today, right? So I don't know what they would have decided to do if they were going to develop their plan and launch it today. As you know, other leagues are going to return to play in the fall with a plan for fans. And that's not just the NFL. It's all leagues are looking to get back in some way to have some level of fans if it's in accordance with state guidelines and the CDC. At the end of the day, our industry is one that, has fans as a big part of what makes our sport work. Our fans want to support their clubs, and if they're permitted to attend sports events in other sports or in other activities, we are willing to work with our clubs if they're, again, abiding by those guidelines to see if we could have them attend our games. So, playing matches with fans in local markets is a step towards some sense of what the new normal in sports is going to be. And we have to start. We've got to give it a try. And the best thing that I could say is we're not sitting here today saying that we have all the answers. We're not saying that what we're going to do is something that's not going to have issues. If we have issues, we'll deal with them. But we believe it makes sense for us to give it a try. That's the best way I could answer that.
Just another question really regarding the Canadian side of things. Now, Vancouver's obviously in the Western Conference. If they're playing games against teams in the Eastern Conference within Canada, what would then happen in phase 2? Because they would be at a competitive disadvantage with not playing their Western Conference rivals.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty clear to all of us now that we're going to have a season that's going to have a lot of competitive balance issues. And nobody's asked this yet, but if we have to postpone a match or cancel a match and we're not able to reschedule it, we're going to have to go to applying the points per match as opposed to total points and determining how we're going to play our playoffs and qualify for those playoffs. It's similar to what we did in 9/11 or after 9/11 when we postponed games there. So clearly there are going to be some competitive balance issues for the remainder of the 2020 season.
With regard to, you talked about the players, taking the protocol seriously. I was curious how the league has communicated to the teams, given the issues in Major League Baseball, about players, coaches, staff taking the protocol seriously, adhering to social distancing. Are there any potential penalties if in the event that a team is found not to have done that? Just curious how you're hoping to maybe enforce that with some measures beyond just hoping the players are on their best behavior.
So it's a good question. It's one that we are in contact with the MLSPA about. So those discussions are going on as we speak, and we should have something complete before the start of the season, the restart of the season with the Dallas-Nashville game.
We are the league with the extra man. We are the league, we are the empty man. And don't you say you've been here bored. The league are here, and we have scored. We are the league. We are the league. We are the league. The empty know we're our league.
So some stuff from Don Garber there, just talking about MLS's plan to return to play, what it means for the Canadian teams, and a lot more as well. As you heard there, the basic attitude is we've got to try it and see if it works, and if it doesn't, we'll take it from there. Like I said before we played it, by that point, the horse has already bolted. So many media on the call asking why they think it's sensible to allow fans in. And then from the answers, it's like what your mum used to tell you. If someone jumped off a bridge, would you do it? No, I wouldn't. But because other leagues are trying this, they feel that they've got to try it as well. Hopefully the fan aspects will get turned down by the proposals and common sense will prevail that they should be played in empty stadiums. Games played with home fans also gives a competitive disadvantage to the away teams that are visiting, and more risk for people that's in the stadium, fans, players, those that have to man all the operations for the stadium as well. I can't imagine that the players are very happy about this. It's going to be interesting to see if the MLSPA does make any statements on it, if any players speak out against it, if any players refuse to play and choose to opt out of the season. We saw it with the Whitecaps down in Orlando. There was a number of players didn't make it down for a number of reasons. If the plan is to travel around Canada first and then relocate to the US, I don't see the likes of Lucas Cavallini suddenly having a change of heart and deciding that he wants to be part of this. And any Whitecaps player that decides to pull out and not play this season, they have my full support. If the Whitecaps stood up and said, right, we're not putting up with this, we're not relocating to the US, we're out for the rest of the season, they have my full support for that as well. You know it's not going to happen. It would be really bad optics for the league. There's going to be a lot of pressure, I'm sure, put on all the Canadian teams to play. Frankly, it's ridiculous. I'm very angry about this. There's a lot of emotions going through me, but the overriding one is anger, frustration, and just disappointment that they're not seeing common sense and are pushing ahead with this plan. And there's a lot more that we can delve into the ins and outs of that. I'm going to do that in the next show, though, with Zach and Steve, and maybe a couple of other guests as well. Just a little bit more football talk before we can wrap things up. There's been some strong rumours in the last couple of days that Inbom Wong is going to be moving on from the Whitecaps, heading over to Russia. Hope it's true. He really needs to get out the Whitecaps, and the Whitecaps really need to get a more creative and successful DP into his position. Of course, attracting a DP to the Whitecaps just now may be difficult. How do you sell that proposition to him? Yeah, you're joining a Canadian team. We're not really sure where we're going to be playing. We might just be playing teams regularly in Canada for a little bit, and then we might have to move to the US and leave your family behind for a few weeks. Not an easy sell there, I think you'll find. But I'm sure there's a lot more to come out in the coming days about the schedule, players, just everything to do with this return to play. I hope for the best. I fear the worst. We'll see what happens, and we'll talk a lot more about it in next week's show. So that is about it for this week's episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. But we can't go without bringing you this week's Wavelength. Now, we've had quite a punky feel so far to the music that we've played in the show, so I thought I'd bring the mood and the tone down a little bit with a lovely song by English female singer-songwriter Emma Townsend, eldest daughter of The Who's Pete Townsend. Now, she's a writer and a musician, and this song is her debut single from way back in 1998. This is Five-A-Side Football.
Girls, the people are standing on the outside, chanting all together and screaming. We're on the inside, pretending we aren't. Something in the air we're breathing, and it's all mixed up because I'm losing my place. They're banging on the windows of the cars. All those pretty faces smeared up against the glass like people in pickle jars. I guess somewhere I signed something and forgot to read the little writing. 'Cause when I got where I wanted to be, that place went past like lightning. Dreamers going big time. James the Taylor's five-a-side football. Think of all the money we're making. People just say you're fucking rich, kid. Always wanted something else to make you moan. But you on the back row making your bitchy little comments could pack up any time and go home. I'm on the schedule like everybody else. Money doesn't mean I can leave it. All you want in life is a little piece of something I worked so hard to achieve it. But I get somewhere, I signed something and forgot to read the little writing. 'Cause when I got where I wanted to be, that place flashed past like lightning. St. Margaret Station, the express dairy, fruit nut chocolate. Think of all the money we're making. Dreamers going big time. James the Taylors, five-a-side football. Think of all the money we're making. And here we are in the devil's car with a good brandy to share. Talking and laughing like we're one happy family, but nobody really cares. We're all drinking till we get somewhere better, but we ain't gonna hold our breath. Not one warm body to ease the red misery. Now it's all closing in till all you want is open spaces. I had somewhere I signed something, forgot to read the little writing. 'Cause when I got where I wanted to be, that place flashed past like lightning. Drumming and thunder, the beat in our ears, wide open spaces. Think of all the money we're making. Dreamers going big time. James the Taylors, five-a-side football. Think of all the money we're making. St. Margaret Station, the express dairies, five-a-side chocolate. Think of all the money we're making. Drumming and thunder, the beat in our ears, wide open spaces. Think of all the money we're making. Dreamers got station, the express dairies, five-a-side chocolate. Think of all the money we're making.
The lovely vocals of Emma Townsend there with her 1998 single, Five-a-Side Football. Hope you enjoyed that one. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. That's it for us. We'll be back soon with another packed episode. Until then, you can give me, Michael McCall, a follow on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Give us a follow on Instagram at AFTN Soccer. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, AFTN Canada. Turn on notifications, watch the videos. We're hopefully going to be bringing out some more videos over the coming weeks. So if you subscribe and turn on notifications, you'll know exactly when they go up on the site. There's a lot of football to come in the coming weeks and months as well. CPL's Island Games kick off on Thursday. We're looking forward to that. Hope you are too. But until next time, thanks for listening, take care, and mon the Caps and the Island Games. Bye everyone.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
PEI.